Welcome to the fantasy audiobook. Beast Control. I'm really not a master of training. Chapter 21. After such an incident, the journey became smoother, and there were no more accidents along the way. Pili number 122 slowly stopped at the high-speed railway station in Yunlin City with a car full of people. Before leaving the station, Fatian walked on the platform after getting out of the high-speed train, and asked curiously, "Where are we going next?" "You will know when we get there." Li Qian looked at Fatian and did not answer directly. He deliberately kept it a secret, with a faint smile on his lips. The two walked slowly. Halfway through, his father Li Chengyang called and Li Qian told him that he had arrived in Yunlin City. Not long after, the two came to the taxi stop. He waved to stop a taxi, and after entering, the driver asked, "Two handsome guys, where are you going?" Hearing this, Li Qian looked at Fatian with a strange expression. Even he could be called a handsome guy. It seems that handsome guys are almost equivalent to men these days. With a smile, Li Qian said the destination of his trip, "Master, let's go to Yunwu Mountain Scenic Area." Yes, Li Qian's trip to Yunlin City was for Yunwu Mountain Scenic Area. This Yunwu Mountain, not to mention Yunlin City, is a well-known scenic spot even in the entire Jiangnan province. The scenic spot is located in the north of Yunlin City, about 50 kilometers away from the urban area, and is famous for its strangeness, danger and beauty. There are three wonders in Yunwu Mountain. One is the sunrise in the clouds, the second is the 100-foot waterfall, the third is Yunwu Mountain Tea. Li Qian's goal in Yunwu Mountain this time is this 100-foot waterfall. It is definitely an exaggeration to say 100-foot waterfall. However, he specially checked on the internet and found that the drop was more than 100 meters, which fully met the terrain conditions required for the evolution of koi. It's still a bit far to go to Yunwu Mountain Scenic Area. The driver was a middle-aged thin man. He turned the steering wheel skillfully and responded casually. The taxi quickly left the Yunlin City high-speed railway station under the control of the driver. The high-speed railway station is in the south of Yunlin City, and the Yunwu Mountain Scenic Area is in the north. It takes almost the entire city to take a taxi. As he traveled along the way, Li Qian also had a rough understanding of the street scene of Yunlin City. It can only be said that it is worthy of being a first-tier city. Even if you just take a general tour, you can feel that no matter the scale or the prosperity, it is not comparable to a third-tier city like Lingshui City. Of course, the driver's talkativeness is also closely related to the understanding of Yunlin City. "Are you going to Yunwu Mountain Scenic Area for tourism?" the driver asked with a smile on his face while driving. Li Qian smiled back, "We are from Lingshui City next door. We have heard about Yunwu Mountain Scenic Area for a long time. It is said that the scenery is pleasant and it is a rare tourist destination. No, we have time on the weekend to come and see it." Li Qian's words were naturally casually following the driver's topic. Along the way, he not only fulfilled his duties as a driver conscientiously, but also acted as a half-tour guide. He did not respond all the time, which was not polite. And Fatian obviously had no intention of speaking, so this matter could only fall on him. "Since you are here on the weekend, you must hurry up. Half a day is not enough to travel the entire Yunwu Mountain," the driver reminded enthusiastically. The driver's enthusiasm made Li Qian a little overwhelmed, and he had to continue to speak perfunctorily, "We will still be here tomorrow. We have been preparing for 2 days. Quote. Just like this, the two chatted with each other, and it was basically the driver who spoke. Li Qian occasionally responded, and as for Fatian, he closed his eyes and pretended to sleep. The taxi drove for about an hour and a half and finally arrived at the foot of Yunwu Mountain. The driver slowed down slowly, pointed to the front, and reminded, "We are here, the gate of Yunwu Mountain Scenic Area is in front." Seeing this, Li Qian took a long breath, and then blurted out 4 words, "Thank you, master." After that, he left the taxi directly. It can be seen that this taxi driver is a good person, but it is indeed a bit too enthusiastic. He kept chattering non-stop. If he continued, Li Qian might have to interrupt him directly. After getting off the taxi, Fatian, who was just in a sluggish state, instantly revived. He asked with some expectation, "Qianzi, can you tell me now?" Li Qian led the way forward. The gate of the scenic area was very conspicuous. In fact, there was no need for the driver's guidance. As long as you had eyes, you could see it. He walked and said, "It's hard to explain, and if I tell you now, you can't imagine it. Wait a little longer. There will be a good show in the evening. Then you will know it clearly. You are so mysterious. I hope you are really holding back something good." Fatty Ann muttered, and then continued to ask, what to do next. "Before coming here, I checked on the internet. There is a hotel in this scenic area. Let's go to the hotel to get a room and rest." Li Qian laughed. Fatty Ann's mouth twitched. "What was your original plan?" Li Qian curled his lips. "I was going to rent a tent." Fatty Ann rolled his eyes. "He thought I was here, and he went straight to the hotel. What did he think of me?" But then again, he really didn't have any idea about the tent. He was going to stay in the hotel anyway, so it didn't matter if Li Qian shared a bed with him. Since they set out in the morning, more than 4 hours have passed. Now, it is past 1 o'clock. After checking in at a standard room in a hotel not far from the entrance of the scenic spot, the two did not rest immediately. They went to the hotel restaurant for lunch first, and then returned to the room. In the corridor back to the room, Fatty Ann's face, which was still laughing, suddenly changed color. This change was noticed by Li Qian at the first time. "What's wrong?" Fatty Ann's expression became quite serious. "Do you remember the few people you just met at the entrance of the restaurant?" Li Qian was puzzled. "Of course I remember. They gave me a very dangerous aura." Fatty Ann lowered his voice, his brows still furrowed. Dangerous aura. Li Qian was even more puzzled when he heard it. "Let's talk about it when we get back." After returning to the room, Fatty Ann exhaled and explained, "You know, I just awakened the beast control space. My beast control talent is quite special, which is danger perception. For some reason, those people I just met at the entrance of the restaurant gave me a very dangerous feeling." After hearing this, Li Qian also frowned. If it is a beast control talent, it is indeed necessary to pay attention to it. Is it possible that it is an identity problem? Li Qian proposed a hypothesis. For example, bodyguards, or one of them has contracted a more bloodthirsty pet. Fatty Ann shook his head, his tone uncertain. "It's not impossible." Li Qian thought about it, and then comforted. "It's okay, we have never met before. Even if they are very powerful, they will not attack us for no reason, and we will only stay here for one night and leave tomorrow morning." Fatty Ann nodded. "Well, anyway, finish the work as soon as possible and leave here." After resting for a few hours, around 3 o'clock in the afternoon, the two of them went out. Their purpose was very clear, which was the 100-foot waterfall, so they didn't go shopping much. Moreover, it is very difficult to travel around Yunwu Mountain with Fatty Ann, who is such a big burden. Even the knots a long distance from the hotel to the Beizong waterfall still left him breathless. This was after he had just awakened and had made great progress in both physical and mental strength. Walking to the Beizong waterfall, both Li Qian and Fatty Ann felt a little lost when they saw the huge waterfall pouring down from the mountainside. Li Qian didn't know what Fatty Ann was thinking at this moment, but at this moment, the scene he saw with his eyes could only be described with a poem from the earth in his previous life, a stream flying down 3,000 feet, suspected to be the Milky Way falling. 9 days. Really spectacular. No wonder Yunwu Mountain has become a very famous tourist attraction in the entire Jiangnan province. It's hard not to be attracted by such a scenery. In this way, it is not difficult to understand why there are so many tourists in Yunwu Mountain. A 100-foot waterfall rushes down and falls into a mountain stream, forming a pool. The water in the pool is quiet and the bottom is invisible. Li Qian stood next to the pool, raised his head and looked at the top of the waterfall. He was already imagining what it would be like when Kizai climbed the waterfall. This place is really good. Fatty Ann, who had seen many magnificent and magical scenery, gave a rare compliment. Then he turned his gaze back and said, "Is this the place you are looking for?" "Yeah," Li Qian nodded. After walking around the pool for a few times, Li Qian did not stay any longer and returned to the hotel with Fatty Ann. On the way back, Fatty Ann asked with some confusion, "Although I don't know what I want to do, are you sure you don't need to adapt to the venue in advance?" "No need," Li Qian replied firmly. "At this time, it is still broad daylight and there are many people and it is not suitable for testing. One more thing, very important. With Kizai's current level, even if he trained his waterfall climbing skills to the perfect level, it would be impossible for him to climb the 100-foot waterfall. Only after taking dragon bone powder and accumulating a lot of energy in the body can it rush up the 100-foot waterfall in one go. As for taking dragon bone powder for testing, Li Qian is not so generous yet. Furthermore, he only bought 3 kilograms of dragon bone powder in total. If he squandered it at this time, even if he could buy it again, he would have to wait a day or two to get the goods. What's more, his account was already empty. He also couldn't get the federal coins needed to buy dragon bone powder. So there is no way to test it at all. He was given only one chance to succeed. Otherwise, he wouldn't know what reason to use to fool Fadian again. Moreover, having been with Fadian for nearly 3 years, Li Qian knew very well that the former just looked honest but was not actually stupid. Back in the hotel room, Li Qian sat cross-legged on the bed, trying to calm down and began to meditate. In this way, the sun sets in the west, the sky becomes dark, and before you know it, it is night. After a simple dinner, the two returned to the room again. Li Qian once again put on the posture of meditating. Of course, it was just a posture. In fact, he did not start meditating. He sat cross-legged on the bed and asked Fadian, who was in the next bed, "Now that I have awakened, I am very curious. What kind of pet has been prepared for you at home?" With the financial resources of Fadian's family and the money distributed by the school, it was enough to support a pet beast with only the potential of a commander level. Li Qian knew that he would definitely look down on it. "I just don't know the potential of the pet beast prepared for him at home. If you are not above the 5th level of Overlord, you might as well directly contract with the blue-scaled dragon." Black Flame Swordsman, Fadian said without hesitation, the pet beast prepared for him at home. Black Flame Swordsman, Li Qian curled his lips. The humanoid fire attack beast is quite good, but its potential is not very high. I remember teacher Lu Xinmin introduced this beast, and its racial potential seems to be only that of Overlord, level 1. Only the 1st level of Overlord. Fadian immediately raised his voice when he heard this, as if he heard something incredible. You know how terrifying the value of a pet with true Overlord level potential is. This Black Flame Swordsman cost our family at least close to 50 million. Fadian continued to educate Li Qian, and it also requires a lot of contribution points. 50 million. What a huge profit. When Li Qian heard such an exaggerated figure, his eyes almost turned into federal coins. No wonder it is said that trainers make money quickly, especially high-level trainers. Take the blue-scaled dragon as an example. If one is cultivated with the potential of the 5th level Overlord, it will be worth at least over 100 million. And it should still be in short supply. But the cost of cultivating the blue-scaled dragon is only about 1 million federal coins, excluding time. At least 100 times the profit. No wonder high-level trainers are extremely wealthy. After muttering something, Li Qian's eyes lit up and he looked at Fadian. "Fadian, isn't your family in business?" he said in a somewhat excited tone. If I really cultivate a pet beast with Overlord level potential, can I ask your family to sell it on my behalf?" Quote. Although Li Qian said "what if," Fadian could hear the seriousness in it, and he nodded. "Of course it's okay. But the best way is to jointly establish a breeding base." Fadian directly said what he thought was the best way to deal with it, then directly cooperate with the official in the name of the base and consign it on the Pet Beast Mall. Yes, you know a lot, kid. If we cooperate in the future, you will take the lead." Li Qian nodded. Wait a minute. Fadian was stunned for a moment when he heard this, and then he immediately reacted. You actually planned something that didn't even happen. How do you know that you don't have to draw even one of the 8 characters? Tonight, I will draw both for you. Li Qian smiled mysteriously. Fadian smiled and said, "It makes me feel a little itchy." Soon, Li Qian murmured softly, then stopped talking and continued to meditate. Time passed slowly, and at early 10 o'clock in the evening, Li Qian suddenly opened his eyes. Looking at Fadian, who was already sleeping soundly next to him, he smiled helplessly. Walking over, patting him, Li Qian smiled and said, "Fadian, let's go." "Leave now." Fadian opened his eyes in a daze. Li Qian glanced at him and said, "If you don't want to witness the birth of a potential Overlord beast, you can stay in the hotel room." "Let's go," let's go now. Fatty An heard this and his fleshy body immediately got out of the quilt. At early 10 o'clock in the evening, the scenic spot was very quiet, with almost no one around. The reason why it is said to be almost deserted is because this kind of beautiful mountain peak scenic spot is definitely indispensable for night climbing enthusiasts. Some are to watch the stars tonight, and some are to watch the sunrise tomorrow morning. But the destination of these people is almost always the top of the mountain. Halfway up the mountain, it was quiet and deserted. To be precise, it was just that one moment it was quiet and no one was there, and the next moment, two figures were approaching slowly. At the same time, in a hotel not far from the entrance of the scenic spot. In a certain room, Liu Chengfeng, the captain of the Special Operations Team of the Public Security Bureau in black uniform, looked at the 7 subordinates standing neatly in front of him with cold eyes, now announced the target of tonight's operation. Catch those alive if you can, but if you can't, kill them on the spot. One of the team members asked, Captain, what should we do about the tourists in the scenic area? Liu Chengfeng looked at the team member. Don't worry, there are not many tourists staying in the scenic spot at night, and there are already colleagues from the Public Security Bureau among them for protection. After explaining, Liu Chengfeng said no more. He stretched out his hand and waved it down suddenly. As he waved his hand, a blue moth about the size of a washbasin suddenly emerged from the void. The blue moth fluttered its wings, and a colorful starlight fell down. 8 members of the Special Operations Team of the Public Security Bureau, including Liu Chengfeng, bathed in the starlight and instantly disappeared. The words were divided into 2 parts. On the other side, Li Qian and Fatty An had arrived at the foot of the Beizong waterfall. Is your Guanzi sold almost here? Fatty An looked at the spectacular 100-meter waterfall rushing down, and then focused his curious eyes on Li Qian. It's almost sold. Li Qian smiled lightly, showing a confident attitude. As soon as he finished speaking, he stretched out his hand. The place he pointed was the pool next to him. Just when Fatty An was puzzled, a light blue 6-pointed star summoning circle suddenly appeared on the water. When Fatty An saw this scene, he was suddenly stunned, and then he looked incredulously. You have contracted a pet beast. You don't want the pet beast issued by the school. The pet beasts distributed by the school have high potential. Li Qian has contracted a pet beast now. Could it be that he has a pet beast with higher potential? The light blue hexagram array disappeared. Well, when Fatty An saw clearly the pet beast Li Qian had summoned, he froze on the spot. Perhaps because he didn't quite believe what he saw before him, he rubbed his eyes. Koi, when he confirmed that after the 6-pointed star summoning circle disappeared, the pet beast that appeared in the pool was indeed just a koi, he widened his eyes and said, Are you crazy, are you crazy? He was stunned. Qianzi, you're not crazy, are you? Fatty An walked up to Li Qian and shook the latter's body, as if to wake him up. The pet beast issued by our school, no matter how bad it is, at least you have the potential to lead the first level. You have awakened the beast control space and are eligible to receive it. It's all right. Why do you want to contract this useless koi? Quote. Kizai's intelligence was not low. He probably understood some of Fatty An's words. He rolled his fish eyes humanely under the water and blew a few bubbles in the latter's direction to show his dissatisfaction. Li Qian was not surprised by Fatty An's gaffe. In fact, if it weren't for the existence of Golden Finger, and if it weren't for the completion of the research on the evolutionary path from koi carp to blue-scaled dragon, contracting Kizai would indeed be a funny decision. He cast a grateful look at Fatty An. After all, it was for his own good that the other party was so rude. It's just that he doesn't know his actual situation. Li Qian is not the kind of person who doesn't know good from evil. Smiling, he pointed at Kizai in the water. Fatty An, this koi of mine is different from ordinary ones. Fatty An took a look and said, It's indeed a little different, but it's just a little bigger and longer than ordinary koi. There's no need to contract it because of this specialness. It doesn't look like it has mutated, and even if it mutates, the mutated koi is still a koi, and its potential is just that. He said with some indignation, and finally, he sighed with annoyance on his face, I really don't understand why you contracted such a useless beast. Alas, the contract has been made, the matter has come to this, and there is nothing we can do. Seeing Fatty and feeling sorry for him, Li Qian smiled bitterly and said, Fatty An, don't be emotional. I contracted this koi for my own reasons. Do you still remember the overlord-level potential pet beast I told you before? Hearing this, Fadian suddenly came back to his senses. Isn't the overlord-level potential pet beast you mentioned before this koi? Exactly. Li Qian didn't hide anything and nodded. At this point, Kizai is about to start evolving, and there is no point in hiding it. Koi, overlord-level potential pet. Seeing Li Qian nod, Fadian even wondered if he was experiencing visual and auditory hallucinations. Li Qian secretly thought that Fadian's training in breeding was relatively average, so he probably didn't know that koi had evolved forms like the blue-scaled dragon, so he didn't explain. He knelt down and smiled mysteriously at Fadian. You'll know later. Say it. He just took out a bag from his backpack. It was exactly 2 kilograms of dragon bone powder prepared in advance. Kizai, let's start. After taking out the dragon bone powder, Li Qian looked at Kizai in the water with firm eyes. Kizai swam around in the water, looking very energetic, and there seemed to be a fierce aura in the eyes of the fish. After everything was ready, Li Qian no longer hesitated and poured a full 2 kilograms of dragon bone powder into the water. In the water, Kizai took a deep breath. The powerful suction instantly forms a small vortex. The white dragon bone powder was sucked cleanly by Kizai in an instant. When Li Qian saw this scene, he stood up, put down his backpack, took out a fruit with a bell-like outline, grabbed the fruit in his hand, and ran out with all his strength, shouting at the same time, "Kizai, climb up to the waterfall." As soon as he finished speaking, Fu was released to observe the evolution process. Li Qian ran out at an extremely fast speed, and his target was the stone steps next to the waterfall. Hundreds of stone steps lead directly to the top of the waterfall. It was not easy for Li Qian to reach the top of the waterfall before Kizai climbed up to the 100-foot waterfall. However, at this moment, he was full of confidence and felt a steady stream of power pouring out of his body. At the same time, Kizai turned into a line of water without hesitation and rushed straight towards the 100-foot waterfall, carrying an indomitable momentum. Seeing one person and one fish in such passionate gestures, Fadian was a little confused. But soon, he came to his senses, and then showed a vague look of expectation on his face. He knows Li Qian's character very well. Although the other party would occasionally brag and spank with him, he never joked or played tricks on big things. Kenko, this guy, couldn't he have figured out how to evolve the koi? Although this speculation is outrageous, combined with Li Qian's previous words, it seems that only this possibility is consistent with the current situation. But what is that? Koi, one of the 4 wastes, recognized in the animal control world. If Li Qian really researches the evolution method of koi, let alone overlord level potential, even if it is only commander level potential, it will be earthquake level news. If true, Li Qian's status may undergo earth-shaking changes in an instant. With this achievement alone, one can immediately ascend to the position of intermediate cultivator. Even, it is not impossible to be directly promoted to senior cultivator. While his thoughts were in confusion, he saw that Li Qian had climbed up the stone steps more than 10 meters high. Just when he glanced at Koi Kizai in another direction, a storm surged in his heart. Because Kizai had already started to climb the waterfall, and the height continued to climb, you could see that a water line going upstream was very obvious. Of course, although this scene was strange, it was not enough to shock Fadian. What really made him feel incredible was that in the waterline, there was a faint light of evolution. What does this mean? The 7 koi fish in front of me are actually evolving. Watching Li Qian and Koi Kizai rush out. One goes straight to the top of the waterfall, and the other goes upstream. One person and one person are favored, and they all look full of passion. Fadian was also infected instantly. He wanted to follow him and have a look. However, the next moment, his mind calmed down. Considering his physical strength and size, as well as the height of the stone steps, he quickly gave up this unrealistic idea. By the time I get up there, the daylilies will probably be cold. Thinking like this, he just stood there quietly. He couldn't take his eyes off the 7 koi fish climbing the waterfall. To be precise, he was staring at the increasingly bright light of evolution blooming from the waterline. As for Kizai's true body, he couldn't see it at all because it was obscured by the waterfall. Qianzi, you are really surprising. Swallowing, and barely suppressing the shock in his heart, Fadian couldn't help but murmur to himself, This time, if I can really see the evolution of the koi, maybe I can not only witness your takeoff but also our settling down. Opportunity to go further. Not to mention that Fatty Ann's thoughts were racing, and for a while, he actually thought of many long-term things. On the other side, looking closer, Li Qian was still climbing up the stone steps at an extremely fast speed. Not far from him, in the waterfall, the water line stirred up by Kizai has become thicker because he went upstream. In addition, the light of evolution is becoming more and more obvious in this dark night. After climbing to about 60 meters, Li Qian paused, looked back, and then glanced at the top of the waterfall. By measuring with his eyes, he felt that his position should be more than half the height of the stone steps. In the waterfall not far away, the water line stirred up by Kizai has almost reached the middle of the waterfall. Li Qian knew very well that they seemed to have completed about half of the progress, but in fact, they were only at the beginning. Further back, as the height continues to increase, the difficulty of climbing becomes more and more terrifying. Especially at the last step to the top of the waterfall, the pressure is definitely several times higher than it is now. And this increase in difficulty is not just for Kizai, but also for Li Qian himself. It is undoubtedly a very difficult challenge for him to reach the top of the waterfall before the former climbs to the top. But he must finish. So, after gritting his teeth, without any delay, he raised his legs again and started climbing. Not far away, the light of evolution emerging from the waterline became more and more intense. On a mountain road about 1 kilometer away from Beizong Waterfall, a mysterious man in a dark red robe stood quietly. He closed his eyes and concentrated on the feeling. Soon, he suddenly opened his eyes, and then his eyes were fixed on the waterfall not far away. What a strong energy fluctuation! Could it be that that is the entrance to the Yunwu ruins? After muttering something to himself, the figure in the dark red robe flickered and left the place where he was standing. In the blink of an eye, the dark red robe was already a few meters away. At the same time, in the opposite direction to the dark red robe, it was about 1 kilometer away from the Beizong waterfall. The middle-aged man in a black Public Security Bureau uniform also noticed something instantly, and then immediately changed his direction of travel. On a certain flat ground near the top of the mountain, in a tent, a woman who was resting suddenly opened her eyes and looked at a location halfway up the mountain. For a time, the energy fluctuations caused by Kizai's evolution actually attracted several waves of attention. Li Qian, who had devoted himself wholeheartedly to climbing the stone steps, was completely unaware of all this. And neither he nor Fatty Ann had this ability. Around the middle of the 100-foot waterfall, Kizai was swimming upstream against the water curtain. The light of evolution on his body was getting stronger and stronger, like a rising day. As time went by, Kizai's speed slowly dropped, and Li Qian felt that his steps were getting heavier and heavier. I don't know how long it took to step forward mechanically. Finally, the end of the stone steps is in sight. Li Qian rushed forward with all his strength. At the top of the stone steps is a platform. A circular platform, leveled and poured with cement, is used as a viewing platform, with a guardrail built around it. Without hesitation, Li Qian ran directly to the position closest to the waterfall, grabbed the guardrail and looked over. Not to his surprise, not far away, Kizai had climbed to a position close to the top. At the top, there is also a small pool with gurgling spring water, which is probably connected to a cave inside the mountain. Kizai was about to reach the top, and his speed became extremely slow, but he still rose stubbornly. Seeing Kizai climbing with such difficulty, Li Qian finally understood why blue-scaled dragons are extremely rare in nature. The complicated, difficult, and obscure ways of its evolution are only one of the reasons. Another point is, the requirements for koi are also extremely high. Kizai can definitely be said to be an outstanding existence among the entire koi group. Even if it wants to reach the top, it needs to work hard, let alone other similar ones. As for Ah Fu, Li Qian didn't even think it could succeed in one go. However, fortunately, if it fails once, the cost is only a waste of 2 kilograms of dragon bone powder. Otherwise, even if you know how to evolve, you may not be able to evolve. In addition, Li Qian also realized something deeply. Even if you master the evolution method from koi fish to blue-scaled dragon, it does not mean that all koi fish can evolve successfully. Whether it is understanding the skill of climbing waterfalls and training it to the perfect level, or using the limit-breaking stone to jump to the limit-breaking level, it is not something that ordinary koi can do casually. As for climbing the 100-foot waterfall, it is even more difficult. It can be said that Li Qian did find a way to jump over the Dragon Gate, but there are very few koi that can actually jump over. Li Qian stared intently, watching Kizai climb slowly, getting closer to the top, and his heart slowly tightened. At the bottom of the waterfall, next to the pool, Fatian was also staring. Although it was a bit unclear, it was vaguely visible that Kizai was about to reach the top. As for Ah Fu in the water, he jumped out of the water from time to time and looked at the top of the waterfall. He seemed very excited. It seems that he is cheering for Kizai, but also seems to be admiring and eager to follow the former's footsteps. At the top of the waterfall, about a quarter of an hour later, under Li Qian's gaze, Kizai finally reached the top. Now, use the fish leap skill. Li Qian thought silently in his heart, and passed the idea to Kizai through the contract. Wow! Sensing Li Qian's thoughts, Kizai chose to believe it unconditionally. It tried its best, mobilized all the energy in its body, and jumped out of the water. Kizai used the limit-breaking diving skill. It jumped extremely high, estimated to be more than 5 meters. That way, it's like there really is an invisible Dragon Gate in the void ahead. It is about to start leaping over the Dragon Gate, and the light of evolution on its body is even brighter. At this moment, Li Qian moved. He shook his hand suddenly and threw the wind chime fruit. Li Qian's throw was extremely accurate, and the wind chime fruit almost went straight to Kizai. Kizai grabbed the wind chime fruit effortlessly and swallowed it without hesitation. Buzz! Suddenly, the light of evolution exploded like gunpowder that had been suppressed to the extreme. Angong! In the light and rain that filled the sky, the faint sound of dragon roar could be heard. The light rain fell, illuminating almost everything around the Beizong waterfall. Boom! Finally, all the light and rain fell into the pool at the bottom of the waterfall. The moment all the light rain fell into the pool. Wow! The water waves exploded, and a dragon head with a conical horn suddenly jumped out of the water, and then the entire dragon body. The slender dragon body is about 6 meters long. The green dragon scales are shiny, and they are inlaid on the dragon's body like stars. The blue dragon claws, although only 3 claws, are quite sharp and beautiful. There is no doubt that this is the blue scale Jiao. Except for the conical horn and 3 claws, it is a standard oriental dragon image. Noble, majestic, sharp, breathtaking, these are the feelings the blue-scaled dragon gave Fatian. But at this moment, he was stunned, standing upright by the pool, like a puppet. The 6-meter-long green-scaled dragon is majestic. It rises on the wind. It is a true sense of rising on the wind. A strong wind whipped up in an instant. The blowing made the waves in the pool turbulent. The blowing made Fatian almost unable to open his eyes. Not intentionally. In fact, Kizai, the green-scaled dragon, has just completed his evolution and is not yet able to control the energy in his body as he wishes. Faced with the fierce power that the blue-scaled dragon inadvertently aroused, Fatian's mood was ups and downs, his mind was agitated, and he was fascinated. At this moment, he had forgotten about the black flame swordsman who had the potential to reach the overlord level. Whether its appearance or strength, the green-scale Jiao is way ahead of him. As for the black flame swordsman who has the opportunity to evolve into the black flame sword lord with the potential of a king. That's just a thought, not to mention that the probability of evolution is low. Even if the evolution can be successful, the price required for evolution alone is not something that he, or even their family, can afford. And since Li Qian can study the evolution method from koi carp to blue-scaled dragon, maybe, in the future, we can also study the evolution method of the blue-scaled dragon. At this moment, he was convinced that Li Qian was a nurturing genius, no, a monster. If it weren't for cultivating monsters, how could he have cultivated a pet beast with overlord-level potential in high school? The wind howled. In the blink of an eye, Kizai was already in the air. In an instant, it had reached the top of the 100-foot waterfall. It looked at Li Qian on the viewing platform. Li Qian also looked at it. One person is favored and one is tacitly understood. They have decided that each other is each other's closest partner. A companion who can be entrusted with life and death. Kizai was suspended in midair, slowly calming down the strong wind around him. It sticks out its head. Li Qian stretched out his hand and stroked its dragon head. Kizai rubbed Li Qian's palm affectionately. The harmonious appearance of the deputy master and pet made Fatty and envious. This is really a step to the top, not just for you, but also for myself. Looking at Kizai and feeling the feedback caused by his soul contract, Li Qian couldn't help but mutter to himself. The evolution of pet beasts can bring all-round feedback improvements to beast masters. This is also the most common way for beast masters to improve their own strength. Li Qian could feel it at this moment. My own qualities in all aspects have been greatly improved. The body is empowered by a surge of energy, as if it has experienced a menstrual cleansing and marrow cleansing. With a squeeze of his fist, Li Qian felt that he could knock down 10 of his pre-evolved self. Of course, improving physical fitness is not the most critical thing. More importantly, Li Qian really felt it. His mental power was like a surge, rising several times in an instant. It even vaguely touched the bottleneck of elite beast masters. However, considering the potential of the blue-scaled dragon, he expected such an increase. Moreover, Li Qian guessed that without his own drag, Kizai might be able to reach the sky in one step and directly advance to the elite level. You must know that the energy that the evolution of the overlord level potential pet beast can bring is very terrifying. It's a pity that the pet beast and the beast master are soul matched. They are shackles to each other. That is to say, if the beast master cannot break through to the next great realm, even if the energy accumulation reaches the limit, the pet beast will still be stuck. Vice versa. Perhaps, before graduation, my mental strength can break through to the elite level. After closing his eyes and feeling it, Li Qian had a more accurate judgment. After feeling the changes in himself, Li Qian just turned his attention to Kizai. As the eye of true sight activated, lines of information appeared in front of him. Name: Green Scale Jiao Kizai. Attributes: Water, Wind. Level: Ordinary 9th level. Potential: Overlord level 5. Skills: Fish Leap Break Limit Climb a Waterfall Perfect Water Arrow Mastery Water Arrow 10,000 Arrows Beginner Water Cannon Proficient High Pressure Water Cannon Beginner Wind Blade Mastery Tornado Skilled Gale Slash Beginner Dragon Soaring Beginner. Looking at Kizai's attributes, even though his psychological quality was good, Li Qian couldn't help but feel excited. It is indeed a pet beast with overlord level potential. He has just evolved, and he has mastered so many skills, and some skills have been directly upgraded to the master level. And one of the skills caught Li Qian's special attention. Soaring Dragon. That's right, it's Soaring Dragon. This is a functional skill. To put it bluntly, it's flying. However, the flight of pet animals is faster, more stable and faster than that of ordinary birds. The reason why Li Qian pays special attention is not just because he can fly with dragons in the future. It's because of the properties of this skill. This is a dragon skill. It is said to be dragon type, but actually dragon type is not an attribute in a clear sense. Although there is a saying about dragon type in the attributes of pet beasts, if you observe it with the eye of true seeing, even if it is a real giant dragon, it will not show the word dragon type. Strictly speaking, dragon type is just a general term used by beast masters for dragon type pets. The dragon system is not like gold, wood, water, fire, earth, wind, thunder, light, darkness and other attributes, and has specific attribute energy. Dragon skills, to be precise, are just a very advanced energy usage technique. It's a bit like the moves in martial arts novels. For example, the skill, Soaring Dragon. Kizai can use both wind energy and water energy to perform. When using wind energy to perform, it soars straight up, covering 1,000 miles in a moment, and is extremely fast. When using water energy to perform, it rides on clouds and mist, looming and appearing, like a fairy trail. The reason why Li Qian attaches so much importance to this dragon skill is that Kizai has mastered this skill at the ordinary level, and in the future, he may master more dragon skills. This is also a manifestation of its high potential. In the future, it may even break through the upper limit of the race's potential. Looking at Kizai's information, Li Qian was very satisfied. He was ready to take Kizai back. After all, this is a scenic spot. Even though it is already the middle of the night, there may still be tourists. If he is seen, it is not a big problem, but there will definitely be trouble. Just when Li Qian was about to take Kizai back. Cack. A few bird calls suddenly sounded. It sounds like a crow. Li Qian didn't care much. In this misty mountain, it is not uncommon for birds and even bird pets to appear. However, the next moment, something unexpected happened. A huge bird pet, resembling a crow, suddenly fell from the sky. It was extremely fast, and its target was Li Qian. Li Qian also noticed this. However, the speed of the giant crow was too fast, and even if he noticed it, he would not be able to react in time. The giant crow's pair of black claws grabbed straight down. At the critical moment, a high-speed rotating water ball suddenly attacked. Bang! The high-speed spinning water ball accurately hit the huge crow that swooped down. Gah! The giant crow was hit. Chirp! There was a bit of pain and anxiety in his voice. Taking advantage of the huge crow being hit by the high-speed spinning water ball, the bird's claw attack deviated from its original trajectory. Li Qian rolled over and narrowly avoided it. Hoo. He was breathing heavily. My heart suddenly beats wildly. Sweat dripped from behind. It's too dangerous. Just now, if Kizai hadn't taken action at the critical moment and used the water cannon skill, his end would definitely not be much better. Either injured or captured. It is not impossible to die directly. After glancing at the huge crow rising into the sky with lingering fear, Li Qian subconsciously used his beast-controlling talent. However, I didn't see any information. There is no doubt that this giant crow is at least elite. It is impossible to see any information unless the other party puts down their guard and allows themselves to explore. Although there was no information about the giant crow, Li Qian had already identified its identity based on his knowledge of pet beasts. Nightmare crow. That's right, the pet beast that attacked him was the dark bird pet beast, the nightmare crow. Dark pet beasts are relatively hard to see, and flying ones are even rarer. After identifying the identity of Nightmare Crow, he felt deeply puzzled. According to the knowledge he has learned, nightmare crows, under normal circumstances, rarely attack humans on their own initiative. However, the nightmare crow in front of him launched an attack on himself without hesitation. Why? Did Kizai's evolution disturb it? Or perhaps, it is not a wild pet, but a human beast. Thinking of this, he glanced subconsciously. Soon, he spotted a figure on a huge rock about 50 meters away from him. Through the moonlight and starlight, Li Qian could barely see clearly. The figure was wearing a dark red robe. Someone from a cult. This was the first thought that came to Li Qian's mind after his eyes came into contact with the figure in red robe. Because I had contact with people from the Public Security Bureau before. That is Zhou Weiping. Through Zhou Weiping's description, he roughly knew the dress of the Black God sect. Later, for his own safety, he also checked on the internet. At this moment, the man in red robe not far away is quite similar to the Black God cultist in other aspects except the color of his robe. Li Qian couldn't help but think about this. After realizing the possible identity of the mysterious man, Li Qian's vigilance immediately increased a lot. He looked at the mysterious red-robed man and frowned. He found that the nightmare crow did not attack him again, but hovered over the mysterious red-robed man. Some things are already self-evident. There is no doubt that the person who made the nightmare crow attack him was the mysterious red-robed man. Who are you? Why are you attacking me? After discovering the mastermind behind the scenes, Li Qian questioned him unceremoniously. Attack without making a sound or warning. The person coming is an enemy, not a friend. Young man, you may have misunderstood. The mysterious man in red robe said calmly. At a young age, he can solve problems that countless breeding masters cannot solve, and study the evolutionary route from koi carp to blue-scaled dragon. Such a genius breeder is exactly our ancient god. Teach what is needed. Just now, I asked the nightmare crow to come down, not to attack you, but to take you out of here and go to a more promising place. Hee. Li Qian smiled lightly, no need to. I have no interest in the more promising place you mentioned. I can only live up to your good intentions. Li Qian firmly refused. He didn't show any expression to the mysterious man in red robe. The mysterious red-robed man was not angry either. His mood remains stable. Interest can be cultivated slowly. Besides, it is your honor to be favored by the ancient god religion. If you refuse this honor, you will not only lose a great opportunity, but you will also turn against our ancient god religion. I hope you will think clearly and never make a mistake. The mysterious man in red robe is still persuading. It was said to be persuasion, but in fact, at the end of the words, it was already an undisguised threat. Li Qian was not afraid. His eye had already hovered above his head, forming a confrontation with the Nightmare Crow. Although I don't know what your ancient god sect does, it doesn't sound like it's a serious organization. Spreading his hands, he continued. So, no matter what you say, I have only one answer. Not interested in. After the words, not interested, fell, although the knight was shrouded and the other party was still wearing a dark red robe that covered his head to his toes, so he couldn't see the change in his face. Li Qian could still clearly sense that the other party's body was a dangerous aura arose. Young people are always so unruly. It seems that there is a lack of social beatings. Go, Nightmare Crow. The mysterious red-robed man's tone became cold. As his voice fell, the giant crow took action again in midair. The Nightmare Crow spread its wings, but this time, it did not attack again. As its wings spread out, ink-colored owls condensed in front of it. Next moment, about dozens of ink-colored owls shot straight over. A living genius is valuable. If you can't take it back and destroy it, it's still a good choice. In short, we cannot leave it to the Eastern Sha Federation. The mysterious red-robed man's voice was like ice. His words made Li Qian even more confirmed. This guy is definitely a cultist. That ancient god cult is definitely a cult organization. Only cultists would oppose the Federation at every turn. After thinking about this, Li Qian no longer held back. Whether he is an opponent or not is one thing. Whether to go all out with the goal of killing the opponent is another matter. Water arrows and thousands of arrows fired together. Li Qian drank secretly in his heart. At the same time, he told Kizai the order through the soul contract. Almost at the moment when the ink-colored all condensed and formed, the water arrow suddenly shot out from the pool at the top of the 100-foot waterfall. Although water arrow 10,000 arrows is called 10,000 arrows, this skill is only at the entry level after all, so in fact, it cannot reach the level of 10,000 arrows at all. However, there are still hundreds of arrows. At least they outnumbered the other party. Bang bang bang. The water arrow and the Nightmare Crow's shadow cone skill collided in the air. The water arrow exploded instantly. Cone of shadows was also greatly affected. Not only is the speed reduced, the vertebrae have also become smaller. Obviously, although the water arrow is not as powerful as the shadow cone, it has successfully weakened the latter's power. And the magnitude of the weakening is not low. At least, the weakened shadow cone should no longer pose any threat to Kizai. Li Qian's guess was not wrong. Although Kizai had just completed his evolution and was at a lower level than Nightmare Crow, he was at a disadvantage after a duel. However, after a duel with water arrows and 10,000 arrows, Nightmare Crow's shadow cone was no longer a threat. Kizai used the soaring dragon skill once. Its body leapt rapidly in midair. It didn't take much effort to avoid the attack of the shadow cone. Angong. Kizai was very unhappy as he didn't win a single duel. The image of being weak and powerless when I was a koi came back to my mind. You give everything you have just to evolve and become stronger and get rid of this feeling of powerlessness. Now, the evolution has finally been completed, and as a result, it has just been reborn, and it has ushered in such a powerful opponent. Thinking of the grievances it had felt, its heart was filled with fighting spirit. Li Qian and Kizai signed a soul contract, so they naturally felt the fighting spirit. He glanced at the Nightmare Crow in midair and the mysterious red-robed man not far away, and there was also a strong fighting spirit in his eyes. Kizai, I feel your unwillingness and anger. He clenched his fists, feeling unfazed. What about the cultists? What about the elites? What about the dark elements? You are the blue scale Zhao, a noble dragon, why should you be afraid? Today, let us have a good fight. After that, regardless of the surprise of the mysterious red-robed man, he directly commanded Kizai and actually chose to take the initiative. Fire wind slash. Li Qian gave the order. A huge, crescent-shaped wind blade about 3 to 4 meters long suddenly condensed into shape and appeared in front of Kizai. The huge wind blade shot straight out, with fierce power. Moreover, under the command of Li Qian, Kizai's attack was not directed at the Nightmare Crow. Its target was the mysterious man in red robe not far away. The best way to deal with the pet beast is to deal with the beast master. Li Qian always kept in mind the wise words of the combat class teacher. Moreover, the other party is most likely a cultist, so there is nothing to worry about. Moreover, since the other party wanted to rob him, he planned to kill him if the robbery failed. Faced with such cruel methods, Li Qian felt that no matter how he retaliates, it is not an exaggeration, it is just self-defense. It has such combat power just after it evolved. It is no less than an ordinary elite mid-level pet beast. It is worthy of being a blue-scaled dragon. The mysterious red-robed man sighed with emotion. The voice fell, the summoning circle flashed, and a python-like beast appeared out of thin air. Rock Python. Seeing the python beast appear, Li Qian recognized its identity immediately. It is the rock python of the earth element. Rock pythons are very good at defense. At this time, the mysterious red-robed man summoned the rock python, and his purpose was self-evident. Facts have proved that Li Qian's guess was not wrong. After the rock python appeared, it immediately used a defensive skill, Rock Wall. An earth wall rose up to protect the rock python and the mysterious red-robed man. The huge wind blade hit the rock wall. Bang! The roar sounded. The huge wind blade cut a deep ravine directly on the rock wall, almost cutting off the rock wall in the middle. After withstanding such an attack, the rock wall was basically destroyed. Unfortunately, the wind blade was also eliminated. Li Qian was not surprised when he saw this scene. Now that Nightmare Crow has reached the elite level, it at least proves that the mysterious man in red is an elite beast master. An elite beast master can contract two beast masters. Li Qian will naturally not forget this kind of common sense. The reason why they still chose to target the mysterious man in red robes was because they wanted to force out all his trump cards, lest he take action suddenly and leave him defenseless. Now, having tried out the mysterious red-robed man's trump card, Li Qian decisively chose to change his target. In this situation, it is obvious that it is basically impossible to bypass the rock python and directly attack the mysterious red-robed man. Moreover, a pet beast like the rock python has low attack and high defense, so it is not a big threat. If an attack falls on it, it will definitely not achieve anything in a short period of time. Li Qian is not stupid, he naturally knows how to choose. The attack was launched again. This time, Li Qian chose a high-pressure water cannon. A larger spinning water ball flew out of the pool at an extremely fast speed, like a discharged cannonball. It is located next to a waterhole. It is such a favorable location. How could Li Qian not know how to take advantage of it? Combat class teacher Hu Minghua once said that a beast master must know how to take advantage of geographical advantages and create a combat environment that is beneficial to him or her. Li Qian will never forget these battle knowledge. Moreover, Kizai has to deal with the situation of 1 against 2. Using water sources to fight will undoubtedly save a lot of energy and be conducive to a protracted war. Li Qian believed that as long as time passed, this mysterious man in red robes would definitely retreat on his own initiative. Don't forget, this is Yunwu Mountain, only about 50 kilometers away from the urban area of Yunlin City. If they were discovered by the Yunlin City Public Security Bureau, they would definitely be miserable. Therefore, Li Qian knew very well that the most important thing for him was not to defeat the mysterious red-robed man in front of him, but to delay as much time as possible. However, because Kizai didn't understand any defensive skills yet, he chose to attack instead of defend. High-pressure water cannons attack the Nightmare Crow. In mid-air, Nightmare Crow's body suddenly disappeared without any warning or trace. The next moment, it appeared in another direction. Li Qian frowned when he saw this. This is the shadow escape skill. It's a physical skill. Executed in the dark, the effect is even greater. If Nightmare Crow keeps using this skill to evade, even if Li Qian wants to confront the opponent head-on, he will have no chance. However, Li Qian was not in a hurry. It just depends on who can outlast whom. Li Qian didn't believe that 3 pet beasts were fighting here, and such a big movement would not attract other people's attention. Just when he ordered Kizai and Nightmare Crow to continue their struggle, a huge rock roared over. Shockingly, the rock python launched an attack. The skill is rock manipulation. Although the rock python is not good at attacking, it does not mean that it has no ability to attack. Everything is relative. For an ordinary person like him, the rock python's attack is still very deadly. In order to prevent Kizai from being distracted and injured, Li Qian rolled to the ground and onto the stone steps below the viewing platform. Boom! Wow! The huge rock broke through the guardrail of the observation deck and fell into the pool at the top of the 100-foot waterfall. The water splashed and rose to a height of more than 10 meters. When Li Qian saw this, he secretly called him lucky. If he hadn't escaped from this, he might have been in bad luck. Looking at the huge waves rising into the sky, Li Qian had a thought in his mind. Go to the water pool and use tornado. Li Qian used the soul contract to issue an order to Kizai. Kizai had no doubts about Li Qian's order. It once again displayed its dragon soaring skill, and with a flash of its body, it had arrived at the pool. Immediately afterwards, its body began to spin in place at high speed. As the body rotated, a tornado with a diameter of about 10 meters suddenly took shape. The hurricane reached straight into the sky, like a huge pillar hanging from the sky. Hoo! The violent wind suddenly blew, which sounded extremely terrifying. The water takes advantage of the wind and instantly stirs up huge waves. From a distance, it looks like a waterspout running through the sky. At this moment, Li Qian had already figured out that whether he could kill or injure the enemy was one thing. This movement must be made bigger. It's best if it's big enough that everyone can see it clearly and clearly. With an indomitable momentum, the waterspout struck hard at the location of the mysterious red-robed man and the nightmare crow. Rocks were blown away and trees were uprooted. For a moment, this area seemed to have been hit by a doomsday disaster. The mysterious red-robed man looked at this scene and frowned deeply. He shouted angrily, and then immediately commanded his two pet beasts, Nightmare Crow, use Shadow Escape, Rock Python, use Rock Guard. As his words fell, the Nightmare Crow instantly disappeared in midair. At the same time, the four stone walls suddenly rose up, forming an encirclement. In an instant, a rock fortress was built. The waterspout passed by, and the earth and rocks on the rock fortress fell rustlingly, but it had little impact on the fortress itself. Hoo! Li Qian's breathing was like blowing a bellows. He and Kizai connected with each other, and took action before the latter activated his skills, and started running towards the bottom of the waterfall. Although it is easier to go up the mountain than it is to go down, Li Qian has experienced an evolutionary feedback after all, and his physical fitness has been greatly improved, so when the strong wind subsided, he had reached about half of the stone steps. He could even clearly see Fatian next to the pool. At this moment, he stood there, dumbfounded, like a piece of wood. When Li Qian saw this scene, he almost couldn't help but curse. Fatian, who usually seemed quite smart, unexpectedly turned out to be stupid at this time. Escape. After uttering a word, Li Qian increased the frequency of his steps again. Just when Li Qian was running downhill at high speed, behind the waterspout, the earth and stone fortress melted away to both sides, revealing one person and one pet among them. The mysterious man in red robe looked at the messy scene on the ground, his face extremely gloomy. You brat, I want you to die without a burial place. He made a vicious voice, sensing the nightmare crow in midair, and prepared to directly kill Li Qian with a fierce offensive. However, at this moment, when he glanced casually, what he saw made him freeze in place. I saw that in the pool at the top of the waterfall, part of the bottom of the pool was exposed due to the tornado absorbing a large amount of water. It was the scene at the bottom of the pool that made the mysterious red-robed man stunned, and then filled with deep ecstasy. I saw that after losing a lot of water in the originally deep and turbid pool, layers of halo appeared at the bottom. The mysterious man in red robe is an ancient god believer, and the main purpose of sneaking into the Yunwu Mountain scenic area is to find traces of the Yunwu relics. At this moment, in this situation, there is no doubt that Li Qian found the entrance to the ruins by accident. This is at least 9 levels of certainty. After the ecstasy, the mysterious red-robed man no longer hesitated. He commanded the nightmare crow and rushed straight towards the halo at the bottom of the pool. Flame spray. Just when the nightmare crow was about to come into contact with the halo at the bottom of the pool, a thick pillar of crimson fire shot out at lightning speed. Gah! The nightmare crow couldn't avoid it and was directly hit by the thick pillar of fire, letting out a shrill scream. Snap! Nightmare crow was hit by the pillar of fire and fell straight down, falling into the pool of water, not knowing whether he would live or die. Poof! The contracted beast suffered such a heavy blow that the mysterious red-robed man suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. Sure enough, it's you bugs. This time, you can enjoy the scenery of the federal prison. A sheriff's bureau investigator wearing a black uniform walked out of the darkness. Beside him, there was also a canine animal that was about the size of a calf and had red fur. Fire Mastiff, you are from the Special Operations Team of the Public Security Bureau. The mysterious man in red robe saw the pet next to the man in black uniform and immediately recognized his identity. Yes, the person who came was none other than Liu Changfeng, the captain of the Special Operations Team of the Yunlin City Public Security Bureau. Liu Changfeng grinned and his eyes suddenly became sharp. The vision is good, but unfortunately, there is no reward. Zhao Hong, continue your flame offensive, let the dragon flames sing. After Liu Changfeng finished speaking, the fire mastiff standing beside him rushed out suddenly, and a ball of blazing flames spurted out from his mouth. The flames shot out and instantly condensed into a dragon shape in midair. The dragon-shaped flames invaded the mysterious red-robed man with overwhelming power. Commander level. Facing such a terrifying dragon-shaped flame, the mysterious red-robed man made a horrified sound, judging Liu Changfeng's strength. Rock Guardian. There was no time to dodge, so he had to order the rock python to continue using the rock guard, trying to hold on. At the same time, on the other side, Li Qian had escaped to the bottom of the waterfall, and Kizai was hovering above his head. After joining Fatty and taking off Fu back, Li Qian prepared the 36th strategy and took it as the best one. Angong. However, at this moment, Kizai suddenly let out a burst of dragon roars. Li Qian noticed the abnormality immediately, and then subconsciously looked towards the top of the waterfall. Then, he was shocked, and a dragon-shaped flame rose into the sky and rushed straight to somewhere. Even though he was more than 100 meters away, Li Qian could still feel the high temperature. This shows how terrifying its power is. The sudden appearance of dragon-shaped flames made Li Qian pause. What's going on? Fatian was a little confused. He looked at Li Qian with a question mark on his forehead. Li Qian shook his head. What he was sure of now was that something new had happened on the viewing platform at the top of the waterfall. As for what this accident is, it is unknown. And Li Qian doesn't want to know. His only thought now is to leave this place of right and wrong as soon as possible. Thinking like this, he looked at Fatian and expressed his thoughts. No matter what the situation is, just two little Kalami like us, we'd better not get involved in those dangerous things. Upon hearing this, Fatian immediately nodded in agreement. Yes, 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 I have wanted to leave this hellish place for a long time. After confirming each other's thoughts, the two of them no longer hesitated and ran straight towards the entrance of the scenic spot. Along the way, Kizai was always flying at low altitude to protect him. This gave Li Qian and Fatian a lot of sense of security. Brother, you were right, the black flame swordsman. The panting Fatian glanced at the low-flying blue-scaled dragon and said with envy, the blue-scaled dragon is the real. Don't say anything. After you leave this place, be sure to prepare a blue-scaled dragon for me. How much? Tell me the number. Li Qian curled his lips. Money is a trivial matter. The key is that if you want the koi to complete its evolution, you must find a suitable waterfall. So, maybe we still have to come to this place. The corner of Fatty Ann's mouth twitched, and after a moment, he said in a faint voice, I will go back and discuss with Antianu to see if we can contract this Yunwu Mountain scenic area. Li Qian wondered, who is Antianu? Fatty Ann, my grandpa. Li Qian, Yunwu Mountain scenic area, the location of Beizong Waterfall. Liu Chengfeng was commanding the Fire Mastiff and was fighting an ancient god cultist. It was said to be a battle, but in fact, to be more precise, it was a one-sided beating. Liu Chengfeng used an absolute advantage to suppress the ancient cultist. Dragon flame singing is different from other fire skills. After the skill is released, the pet beast can also control it. At this moment, the Fire Mastiff is controlling the dragon-shaped flames to circle around and wrap the defensive skill released by the rock python, Rock Guard. Visible to the naked eye, the rock fortress formed by the defensive skills is burning red at an extremely fast speed. If this trend continues, even if the rock fortress cannot be broken, the ancient god cultists inside will be roasted alive. In other words, at this moment, the ancient religious believer has become a turtle in the urn. Hard to fly with wings. The high-temperature flames continued to scorch, and Lu Chengfeng stared expressionlessly, showing no joy or sorrow. Sure enough, there are accomplices. At a certain moment, Lu Chengfeng's eyes suddenly became sharp. He turned his head, looked in a certain direction, and ordered, "Xiao Jinzi, go and find that mouse for me." After the words fell, the summoning circle flickered, and a golden giant ape about 5 meters high appeared out of thin air. The giant ape was holding a golden stick, and following Lu Chengfeng's guidance, he jumped out and smashed it in a certain direction. On the stick, the metal energy flows, flickering with light. It was suddenly swung out, causing a fierce sound of breaking wind, and the power was quite frightening. Boom! The stick was thrown out, hitting in a certain direction, causing an explosion. Astonishingly, it is the powerful attack skill of the diamond ape, mountain breaking strike. At the moment when the explosion sounded, a figure flew out from the darkness. The Earth River is flowing. The figure shot out and shouted secretly at the same time. As the voice fell, a burly figure suddenly appeared out of thin air and slapped the ground hard. A river, composed entirely of earth and stone surged. The river of earth and stone did not attack Lu Chengfeng, but rushed straight to the place where the dragon-shaped flames were entrenched. Covered by the river of earth and rocks, the dragon-shaped flames that had lost most of their power were ultimately defeated and extinguished. The dragon-shaped flame was buried by the Tuhei River. The next moment, the Tuhei River separated from both sides, revealing the ancient cultists inside. At this moment, the ancient god cult believer no longer looked like before, and he looked extremely embarrassed. There were extensive burns on the body surface. It can be said that if the mysterious person did not suddenly appear to rescue him, the ancient religious believer would definitely end up dead without a burial in a short time. Master God Envoy. The ancient god cultist looked at the mysterious man who rescued him and said in a respectful and grateful tone. After that, he added bitterly, "I'm sorry, Lord God Envoy. You performed very well and helped the cult find the entrance to the Yunwu ruins." The mysterious man waved his hand and said in a calm tone, "As for this person, Lu Chengfeng, the captain of the Special Operations Team of the Yunlin City Public Security Bureau, has reached the level of the commander level is not something you can resist." Lu Chengfeng was not surprised when he heard the mysterious man's calm words. He has been fighting evil forces all year round, so it is normal for his intelligence to be found out. The envoy of the ancient god religion unexpectedly caught a big fish. Lu Chengfeng smiled happily and was not afraid. Just as the two were talking, the huge figure that had previously slapped the ground and stirred up a river of earth and rocks had arrived next to the mysterious man. It was a giant brown bear. The giant bear is about 7 or 8 meters tall. When the person stands upright, it looks like a hill, giving people the aura of black clouds pressing over the city. At least the Earth Fury Bear, who is the leader of the intermediate level, is in a bit of trouble. After muttering something to himself, the next moment, 7 figures suddenly gathered from the darkness in different directions. The person who came was none other than a member of his team. There was such a big commotion here, whether it was the members of the Special Operations Team or the believers of the ancient god religion, they had long noticed the abnormality. Almost as soon as they noticed the anomaly, personnel from both sides took action and rushed over quickly. After scanning the 7 team members who had gathered and the 4 cultists who had suddenly increased in the opponent's camp, Lu Chengfeng licked his lips. Even if the strength of that divine envoy is higher than mine, it is not impossible to fight given the numerical advantage. The most important thing is that time is on your side. After all, this is within the limits of Yunlin City, and support will arrive soon. The other party, the cultist, is usually like a mouse hiding in the dark, not daring to be exposed to the sun. Now that there is such a big commotion, he definitely doesn't dare to stay any longer. There is another point that is also the biggest source of Lu Chengfeng's self-confidence. Unlike others, Lu Chengfeng knew a little bit about this cloud ruins through his connections with the federal government. If the legendary descendant is still nearby, no matter what happens here, it won't be a big problem. Perhaps the battle he was having at this moment with the divine envoy of the ancient god religion was just playing house in the eyes of that legendary descendant. However, Lu Chengfeng knew very well that that person's existence was a trump card that could not be easily used or exposed. So they have to fight on their own. Don't take any chances. Thinking of this, he winked at Xie Dongye, the deputy captain next to him. Among the entire special operations team, currently, only he and Xie Dongye have reached the leadership level, and since they have only just broken through, they do not have a contract with a third pet beast. Fighting alone, they are definitely not the opponents of the ancient divine envoys. However, if the two of them join forces and 4 pet beasts fight against 3 pet beasts, even if they may suffer some losses in terms of level, there should be no problem. As for the other members of the ancient god religion, it is more than enough to leave them to 6 subordinates. Of this group of people from the ancient god religion, the only one who could really be considered a threat was this divine envoy. The others are all at the elite level. With their superior numbers and strength, if the opponent doesn't retreat, it's only a matter of time before they win. Vice Captain Xie Dongye, who had been working with Lu Chengfang for many years, instantly understood what he meant and summoned his pet beast without hesitation. A commander-level wind pet beast wolf vulture and a fire mastiff also at the commander level. The configuration of pet beasts in the Special Operations Team of the Public Security Bureau is basically the same. Mainly wolves, dogs and apes. In this way, 2 commander-level fire mastiffs, 1 commander-level wolf vulture, and 1 commander-level diamond ape formed an encirclement against the divine envoys of the ancient god religion. The latter also summoned his pet beast instantly. A commander-level nightmare crow, a commander-level skeleton general, and the violent earth bear that had just extinguished the dragon flames. Whether it is Lu Chengfang or Xie Dongye, they are backed by the federal government and their equipment is far beyond what Li Qian can match. Therefore, as soon as the ancient divine envoy summoned the pet beast, he measured these 3 through the energy detector on his body. The strength level of the first pet beast. Command the 5th level dark type nightmare crow, command the 5th level earth-based violent bear, and command the 7th level undead skeleton general. Such a 3-headed beast, whether it is dark type or undead type, is a relatively difficult attribute. As for that violent earth bear, in this environment, there is quite a lot of room for him to develop. The most feared thing is the skeleton general. His strength has reached the high level of a commander. It will be even more troublesome to deal with him. Thinking like this, the two of them had a thought in their minds and silently commanded. 2 fire mastiffs, one commanding the 1st level and the other commanding the 3rd level, immediately launched an attack on the skeleton general. Although the skeleton general is of the undead type, it is a skeletal type beast after all, not a ghost type pet. It has a somewhat restraining effect against the extremely sunny and hot fire type. The diamond ape holding a metal stick approached the earth violent bear. The diamond ape belongs to the metal type. It is strong in close combat and good at defense. Its metallization skill can resist earth type skills to a large extent, and is most suitable for dealing with violent earth bears. As for the nightmare crow, it was naturally left to the wolf vulture, which is also a flying pet. The wolf vulture has a speed advantage, so even if it loses, it will definitely be no problem if it can fight 1 or 2. At the same time, while Lu Chengfang and Xie Dongye were fighting with the divine envoys of the ancient god religion, other members of the special operations team also fought with a total of 5 members of the ancient god religion. Suddenly, the movement near the Beizong waterfall became even louder. From time to time there were explosions. The news of the fighting disturbed many people. The figure emerging from a camping tent on a flat ground somewhere on the top of the mountain was a woman. The woman is slender and tall, with a high ponytail and a heroic attitude. After running out of the tent, she didn't hesitate at all and ran straight towards the direction where the fighting news came from. Another place. It was a small house located deep in the jungle. The small house is made of wood and looks unremarkable. The next moment, the door of the wooden house was pushed open, and an old man with half-white beard and hair walked out slowly. Hey, after half a lifetime of peace, I don't know if I, an old forest ranger, can continue to work. As he spoke, he focused his gaze on a certain location in the scenic area. Somewhere in the scenic area, inside a house, a mature woman in her 30s also pushed the door open. The woman was wearing a tour guide uniform. As she pushed the door open and walked out, she couldn't help cursing, "It's so late at night, it's hard for people to live in peace. I hope it doesn't disturb the old man's rest." As soon as she finished speaking, she flew out, walking as fast as flying through the mountains and forests. She could vaguely see green-brown vine tentacles around her, ready to move. There was movement from all sides, and they all rushed towards the place where the battle took place. Neither Lu Changfeng, Xie Dongye nor the envoys of the ancient god religion noticed this scene. However, both parties have predictions about this. It's impossible for such a big movement that no one has come to check. Therefore, at this moment, although the divine envoy has suppressed Lu Changfeng and Xie Dongye, he does not feel any joy in his heart. The geographical location, people are not on their side. If they continue to fight, they are likely to encounter unpredictable dangers. Looking at the 7 pet beasts who were fighting inextricably, the divine envoy actually had the intention of retreating in his heart. God's envoys are also decisive people. After making some calculations, he silently ordered in his heart. In midair, Nightmare Crow suddenly used a shadow explosion to drive back the wolf vulture. After shadow explosion, it immediately used the shadow escape skill and came to the side of the divine envoy in an instant. The divine envoy jumped suddenly, his body jumped into the air, and fell into the crow's back. At the same time, Skeleton General and Earth Fury Bear also used their ultimate moves, Soul Destroying Slash, and Earth River Rush, almost at the same time. The bone sword was chopped down by the Skeleton General, and a dark gray sword energy was cut out, which went straight towards the 2 fire mastiffs. The terrifying river of earth and stone also roared towards the diamond ape. Avoid it. Faced with such 2 fierce offensives, both Lu Changfeng and Xie Dongye issued the same order. The 2 fire mastiffs used the flame flash skill at the same time to evade. The Vajra ape kicked the ground violently, its whole body of golden energy flashing, its speed suddenly increased, its body jumped high, and it dodged backwards. Both the fire mastiff and the Vajra ape chose to avoid its sharp edge. Just when the 3 pet beasts were dodging, the divine envoy had already commanded the Nightmare Crow, stood on its back, and flew into the sky. No, he's going to run away. Lu Changfeng's expression suddenly changed when he saw this scene. This divine envoy of the ancient god religion was the biggest fish they caught tonight. If he was allowed to escape, even if all the remaining miscellaneous hairs were destroyed, it would not mean much. There is no shortage of elite-level believers in the ancient god religion. Ha ha ha, the mountains are high and the rivers are long. Captain Lu, we will see you later. The divine envoy stood on the back of the Nightmare Crow and quickly rose into the air. He taunted in an arrogant tone. You can't leave. After his words fell, a cold female voice responded to him. At the same time as the female voice sounded, a thick bolt of lightning struck at lightning speed. Thunder strike. Lightning struck, faintly accompanied by a deep shout. Quack. The Nightmare Crow was hit and let out a shrill cry in midair. The next moment, the whole crow fell straight from the air. I don't know whether I will live or die. On the mountainside, a huge brown bear kicked its legs fiercely, jumped over, and used the soft flesh on its back to catch the angel who had landed 1 step ahead. The divine envoy landed on the back of the violent earth bear, sensed it, and found that the Nightmare Crow was on the verge of death. His eyes were full of solemnity. 1 blow directly killed the 5th level leader of the Nightmare Crow in an instant. The person who came was probably at the peak of the leader's strength. An opponent of such strength is simply not something he can deal with. The god made him anxious, and for a moment he couldn't think of a way to deal with it. But the visitor would not give him a chance to breathe. The thick thunder struck again unreasonably. Block it. After giving the order to the Earth Fury Bear, the divine envoy jumped out again to dodge. The Geostorm Bear stretched out its paws and slapped a huge rock to block the incoming lightning. Boom! The powerful lightning directly smashed the rocks into pieces. Ho-a-ho! The lightning shattered the rocks, and the remaining force weakened slightly, hitting the body of the Earth Violent Bear, which let out a shrill cry. A charred blackness visible to the naked eye instantly covered the entire body of the Earth Fury Bear. This blow, even if it did not directly kill the earthly violent bear, still seriously injured it. The divine envoy took this opportunity and jumped to the side of the skeleton general. At this moment, only his ace pet could bring him a little sense of security. Of course, this sense of security is, strictly speaking, just self-deception. Who are you? The envoy looked towards the direction of the attack and shouted. In the darkness, a woman walked slowly. The woman is slender and tall, with a high ponytail, full of heroic spirit, and has the style of an ancient heroine. Who am I and why should I tell you? The woman's voice said jokingly. The only thing you need to know is that your end will be very miserable next. The woman's voice fell, and at this moment, a leopard-shaped pet beast with purple and black lines walked out from her side. Thunder Leopard. The angel recognized the pet beast next to the woman, and then suddenly realized. Obviously, the pet beast that just attacked him was 100% this Thunder Leopard. Okay, there's no point in talking nonsense. Cultist, accept your judgment. The woman waved her hand and pointed at the angel, her voice indifferent. Sizzling. The Thunder Leopard sprang out with a whoosh, and a layer of dazzling electric light spread on the surface of its body. With extremely fast speed, the Thunder Leopard seemed to turn into a bolt of lightning and hit the God Envoy and the Skeleton General directly. It is the skill, Strike Lightning. It is a relatively powerful melee attack skill of the Thunder system. Shield of Bones. The Envoy could not avoid it, so he had to order the bones to resist with all their strength. If the fire element's restraint against the undead element only favors conceptual restraint, and the actual effect is slightly better, then the thunder element is a real restraint. In addition, the strength level of Liguang Leopard is significantly higher than that of Skeleton General. So, bang, after the collision of skills, the bones were thrown directly away, and no one knew how many bones were broken on his body. Bones and dregs kept falling down. I advise you to just go ahead and capture him. This way, you will suffer less. The woman's voice was still cold, and there was no sign of any emotional change. The angel's eyes were firm and he was not afraid. If you want me to be captured without any help, there is no way. Stubborn. The woman was not surprised when she saw this. In all likelihood, these cultists have been completely brainwashed. Each one of them has the ambition to be brave and not afraid of death. Sometimes, it is really troublesome to deal with them. The woman said no more, and the Thunder Leopard once again used Strike Lightning, and a layer of dazzling thunder light appeared on its body again. Gah! Just when the Thunder Leopard was about to attack, a sharp crow in the sky attracted everyone's attention. Overlord level, Night Demon Crow. Looking at the huge crow that appeared over Yunwu Mountain at some unknown time, the woman's eyes became more solemn than ever before. It's actually the evolved form of the Nightmare Crow, the Nightmare Crow. Not far away, Lu Chengfeng looked up and saw this scene, and couldn't help but make a sound of surprise. When several people were shocked, the Night Demon Crow had already launched an attack. The rich ink color spread to the surroundings with the Night Demon Crow as the center, instantly covering the entire mountain. This is the signature skill of the Night Demon Crow, the Dark Night Domain. As long as it is shrouded in the realm, all other energies except the dark element will be greatly suppressed. You can only use 1/10 of your strength. The woman murmured to herself, frowning deeply. Next to him, the envoy who was at the end of his rope suddenly laughed wildly. Ha ha ha, the divine religion has not given up on me. It must be the protector. The protector is here to save me. At the same time, in a forest not far from here, a mature woman wearing a tour guide uniform looked at the sky and shook her head helplessly. Darkness is coming and is about to cover the entire mountain. The female tour guide pointed to the sky and said in a long voice, Tianxin, pierce it. As the words fell, dense vines shot out from the woods. Hundreds of vines gathered in midair, and in the blink of an eye, they formed a thick wooden dragon. The wooden dragon roared and attacked the descending ink barrier. Boom! It sounded like glass breaking. A big hole was poked out of the ink barrier in an instant, and a moment later, it disintegrated into nothingness. In the sky, the huge Night Demon Crow has disappeared without a trace. The angel looked at the empty sky and was dumbfounded. The protector is here. The protector is gone. What should I do? The woman who commanded the Thunder Leopard looked at the place where the vines were rising. Her eyes narrowed slightly, and then her gaze was like a knife, directed at the divine envoy. Bang bang bang. After a while, Lu Chengfeng couldn't help but swallowed as he looked at the dying divine envoy. Well, this sir, he greeted. The woman said nothing and took out an ID book from her pocket. Lu Chengfeng glanced at the ID. Special Commissioner of the Jiangnan Provincial Public Security Bureau, Zhao Shui. After seeing the information on the certificate, Lu Chengfeng and Xie Dongye immediately bowed respectfully. Detain him, Zhao Shui said, then turned around and jumped back towards the top of the mountain. Lu Chengfeng waved, and two teammates who had finished the fight immediately came over, took out the handcuffs, and cuffed the hands of the divine envoy. Put away those pet beasts that are dying or dead. Following his instructions, the remaining team members also moved and used the beast control balls to collect all the pet beasts of the cultists. These pet beasts, under normal circumstances, would not be able to be imprisoned in the beast control ball. Even if he is imprisoned, he can easily break free. However, at this moment, these pet beasts have all lost their fighting power. They are either on the verge of death or already dead, unable to resist at all. Don't look at it. A woman with the level of a special correspondent is not something you can think about. Turning around and catching a glimpse of Xie Dongye still looking at the direction Zhao Shui left, Lu Chengfeng patted him on the back of the head. This lump of elm wood, which had been dull for so long, finally came to its senses and actually fell in love with the special commissioner. Lu Chengfeng didn't even know what to say. That kind of woman is something you, a little deputy captain of the special operations team, can miss. No, Captain, you, don't misunderstand, don't talk nonsense. Xie Dongye's cheeks immediately turned into monkey butts when he heard this. He retorted without hesitation, but he was hesitant and awkward. That kind of nervousness, that kind of uneasiness, anyone can see it. Seeing this, Lu Chengfeng shook his head and sighed helplessly. Chapter 31. Li Qian and Fatty have returned to the hotel. They simply packed up their things and prepared to check out and leave. However, at this moment, the hotel manager told them a bad news. The scenic spot is temporarily closed, and no entry or exit is allowed. The two had no choice but to return to the room again. Out of curiosity, they went directly to the rooftop of the hotel. Then, just when they climbed onto the rooftop and looked at the 100-foot waterfall, the image of thunder and lightning came into their eyes. Although they were far apart, both Li Qian and Fatty could feel the terrifying power contained in the thunder. Fortunately, we chose the 36 strategy as the best strategy. Fatty patted his chest and said happily, otherwise, if we were affected, we would have to shed our skin even if we didn't die. Brother, tell me, can we find a waterfall somewhere else? Fatty swallowed his saliva, already having a psychological shadow over Li Qian's previous words that he might come back. Obviously, this scenic spot is not normal. How could there be cultists in a normal scenic spot? How could there be such a fierce battle in a normal scenic spot? Qianzi, I feel that this Yunwu Mountain scenic area is not as simple as it seems on the surface. Fatty continued to persuade, the water inside may be deeper than we thought. Li Qian nodded in agreement. Although Beizong Waterfall is a more suitable place for koi evolution. But for the entire Dongxia Federation, not to mention the Dongxia Federation, even the entire Jiangnan province, it should not be difficult to find other places that meet the conditions. Yes, let's change places. After agreeing, Li Qian suddenly thought of something, so he added, if it doesn't work, let your grandfather build an artificial waterfall with a high enough height directly near our Lingshui city. Li Qian just suddenly remembered this and said it casually. Unexpectedly, Fatty actually started thinking seriously after hearing this. After a moment, he nodded thoughtfully, this might be a good idea. After hearing this, Li Qian couldn't help but twitch the corner of his mouth. It's so inhumane. The two of them stood on the rooftop of the hotel, watching the battle in the direction of the Beizong waterfall. Soon, the battle came to the scene when the Night Demon Crow appeared and used his signature skill, Dark Night Domain. Looking at the ink that almost covered the entire mountain, Li Qian and Fatty looked like they had seen a ghost. A skill with such terrifying power and such wide coverage, if they were the two of them to face this skill directly, the consequences would be almost self-evident. Both of their eyes widened, their pupils filled with shock. Just when the two of them thought that the battle at the Beizong waterfall was about to end due to the descent of the Dark Night realm, something unexpected happened again. Hundreds of wooden vines sprang out from unknown directions, and gathered into a wooden dragon, piercing the sky. The seemingly terrifying and awesome Dark Night domain skills were easily defeated. A big hole was dug out by the wooden dragon. In the end, the battle ended with the Dark Night realm shattering and dissipating, and the wooden dragon turning back into a wooden vine and retracting. Of course, the battle may not be over yet, but the scale and intensity have shrunk, and they are far away, so Li Qian and Fatty can't find it. There was no excitement to see, and at this time, they could not leave the scenic area. They had no choice but to return to the room to rest. In this way, time passed by and came to the next morning. This night, neither of them slept very well. Last night, first Kizai successfully evolved, then he was attacked by cultists, and then a new incident occurred. Strong men fought near the Beizong waterfall. In just one night, so many things happened. Even though Li Qian thought he had a good psychological quality, he was still a little tossing and turning. Fatian, who always slept in bed, also had a rare insomnia. The reason is similar to Li Qian. In addition to lamenting what happened last night, I was also full of expectations and excitement. At this moment, he was already imagining the scene in which he commanded the green-scaled dragon to fly into the sky and escape to the earth, killing gods when gods blocked it, and Buddha when it blocked Buddha. Therefore, when they woke up in the morning, neither Li Qian nor Fatian were in good spirits, and both had two big dark circles under their eyes. Just had breakfast in the hotel restaurant. While eating, the two of them paid special attention. Not surprisingly, in the restaurant, many tourists were discussing what happened last night. There was no way they were unaware of such a big movement last night. Have you heard? Last night, a powerful wild beast appeared in the scenic area and caused great damage to the scenic area. However, in the end, people from the Public Security Bureau rushed over and took care of it. Don't be ridiculous. I heard that it's not a wild pet beast at all, but a beast master fighting it. You're just talking nonsense. What the hotel manager revealed to me this morning is a wild pet. Just watch, the Public Security Bureau will give an explanation soon. Quote. In the restaurant, the tourists mentioned that the Public Security Bureau would soon give an explanation. Li Qian and Fatian just heard this and didn't take it to heart. However, what they didn't expect was that the news came very quickly. As soon as they returned to the room, news was pushed to them in the mobile app. Qianzi, look, the official statement is that wild beasts are indeed causing trouble. Fatian pointed at the news on his phone and said with some disdain. This kind of reason is okay to deceive other people. Since they have experienced this incident, they will naturally not believe it. But they also knew why the Public Security Bureau refuted the rumors like this. It is better for the general public to know as little as possible about cultists. Avoid causing unnecessary panic. Ding dong ding dong. Both of them scoffed at the official statement, but they both understood it. Just when they were about to make a call to ask when they could leave the scenic spot, the doorbell suddenly rang. Li Qian subconsciously looked through the peephole. It was a young man. Judging from his dress, he should not be a waiter or manager of the hotel. After thinking about it, Li Qian opened the door. This is a hotel after all, and there should be no worries. Let me introduce myself. My name is Liu Changfeng, from the Yunlin City Public Security Bureau. As soon as the young man entered, he introduced himself with a smile. It can also be seen from this that he has no malicious intentions. Although Liu Changfeng was one of the protagonists of last night's battle, when he appeared, Li Qian had already taken the opportunity to slip away. Therefore, he and Liu Changfeng did not meet each other, so naturally they did not know each other. Sir Liu, what's the matter? Li Qian asked calmly. Ever since he had a fight with the cultists last night, he knew that it was only a matter of time before people from the Public Security Bureau came to his door. Liu Changfeng looked at Li Qian and saw the calmness on his face, and couldn't help but praise him secretly. He is worthy of being a peerless genius who was able to study the evolution of Koi in high school. His mental quality alone is beyond the reach of ordinary high school students. I'm here to inform you. Liu Changfeng said. The smile on his face became more obvious. The blockade of the scenic spot has been lifted, and you can leave at any time. As he kept talking, he continued. In addition, I hope you can keep silent about what happened last night. What happened last night? Is it that ancient divine sect? Li Qian did not agree directly, but asked, can you tell us about this organization? Although when you get to the Beast Control University, your teacher will definitely introduce this information, but since you have already encountered it, it doesn't hurt to tell you in advance. After a pause, Liu Changfeng continued. This ancient divine sect is actually a cult organization. They target the order of human society. Next, Liu Changfeng spent about 5 minutes giving them a brief introduction to the ancient god sect. It is similar to what Zhou Weiping of the Lingshui City Public Security Bureau introduced before. This ancient god sect is a cult organization just like the Black God sect. Wanted by all major federations in human society, they are a group of restless pests. Liu Chengfeng introduced a lot of information about the ancient god religion, but when it came to the other party's presence in the Yunwu Mountain scenic area, he only told them with a simple sentence of destroying the order of human society. Why do you come to a scenic spot to disrupt order, and why do you choose to go to a non-holiday night? If you go to the city, or choose during the day, wouldn't the effect be better? Li Qian knew that there must be some secret hidden in it, but he knew better that curiosity killed the cat. When strength does not allow it, it is better not to know some things. The more you know, the more dangerous it is. Sir Liu, we understand. We will not reveal a single word about what happened last night. After listening to Liu Chengfeng's introduction, Li Qian learned a little about the ancient god sect. Without hesitation, he directly gave the information. Affirmative answer. Both he and Fatian were eager to distance themselves from this matter. It would be best if they really knew nothing about it. Fatian was signaled by Li Qian's look, and he also echoed, "Don't worry, Chief Liu, our mouths are the strictest." Chief Liu, do you have anything else to do? Seeing that both of them had promised not to leak what happened tonight, but Liu Chengfeng still had no intention of leaving, Li Qian knew that he should return the favor. If he had other purposes, he asked directly. It's like this. It's been less than a year since I was promoted to the commander level and I haven't found a suitable pet beast yet. Liu Chengfeng said with some embarrassment. Last night, I saw your koi evolve into a blue-scaled dragon. I thought, let me ask, have you cultivated the evolution method from koi to blue-scaled dragon? In this world of beast control, the protection of intellectual property rights of breeders is very strict. Li Qian has researched the evolution method from koi carp to blue-scaled dragon. As long as he is not willing, no one can steal his research results. Of course, if someone else also figured out how to evolve from koi carp to blue-scaled dragon, it would have nothing to do with him. As for how the research results can be transformed into real benefits, there are many ways. The first is to help people breed pet animals and collect breeding fees. For example, if you charge 100 million federal coins to evolve from a koi carp to a blue-scaled dragon, it is estimated that some people will flock to it. Secondly, it is to directly sell the evolution methods to large companies, Breeders' Association, Beastmasters Association and other large institutions and organizations. Of course, you can also choose to use the evolutionary method you have mastered to earn a cultivation fee, and then, after a certain number of years, sell the method directly to a large institution or organization. At present, most ordinary trainers in the industry choose this way. The reason for this choice is not only to maximize profits, but also because as more and more evolved bodies are cultivated, the cultivation method will be cracked sooner or later, and by then, the value will be even lower. As for plundering by clever means, that is basically impossible. The federal government, the Beastmasters Association, and the Breeders' Association all know that only by ensuring the interests of breeders can the innovation of breeding in the entire Beastmaster society be activated. Just like intellectual property protection in previous lives. If the interests in this area are not protected, who will spend time and money to cultivate them? Of course, it is also possible to keep a secret on the evolution methods of certain pet beasts. For example, some large groups, aristocratic families, chaebols, guilds, etc. have mastered the evolution methods of some specific pet beasts. These evolutionary methods may even affect the Federation. Neither the Beastmasters Association nor the Breeders' Association has any control over it. If you want to evolve into this kind of specific pet beast, you have to pay a sufficient price to ask these forces to take action. This is also one of the important advances of these forces, but it is not without risks. If the evolutionary method is cracked, there will be a risk of losing everything. Because of this information, Li Qian already knew Liu Chengfeng's purpose when he mentioned the blue-scale Zhao. He did not give a direct reply, but said pointedly, "Last night, you saw my koi and saw it evolved into a blue-scaled dragon. Can I understand that at that time you also I was there, including when I was fighting with that ancient god cultist, and you were not far away?" Li Qian's words were quite harsh, with a hint of blame. And he does have some resentment. At that time, he was fighting with the ancient god cultist, and was obviously at a disadvantage. The Chief Liu of the Public Security Bureau was hiding in front of him, but he did not help immediately. Don't forget, protecting the safety of people's property is one of the responsibilities of the Public Security Bureau. So Li Qian complained, and Liu Chengfeng could understand. He nodded and said in a rather bitter tone, "Yes, I was right there at the time. I could have taken action immediately, but seeing that you still had the ability to deal with the situation, I thought that your life would not be in danger in a short period of time, so I hid first. I wanted to take this opportunity to see if I could catch more fish." Big fish. Liu Chengfeng did not hide anything and directly expressed his true thoughts at that moment. When Li Qian heard this, the corner of his mouth couldn't help but twitch. Unexpectedly, he became the bait for fishing. He was very unhappy, but seeing Liu Chengfeng's frank look, he didn't know what to say for a moment. And what happened last night? In the end, Liu Chengfeng took action and rescued himself, otherwise he would not have been able to escape down the stone steps smoothly. The ancient god cultist didn't chase him, probably because he was restrained by Liu Chengfeng, so in any case, the other party saved him. Of course, the most important thing is that Li Qian feels that helping the security officers of the Public Security Bureau can be regarded as doing his part for the society. So after thinking briefly, he agreed, okay. However, the cultivation cycle is relatively long. Under normal circumstances, it takes 2 to 3 months. The breeding fee is 10 million. Li Qian kept talking, stretched out a finger and continued. Besides, you need to prepare a koi with higher potential. This, Liu Chengfeng originally thought that Li Qian would refuse without hesitation. After all, he did not come to the rescue immediately last night. The other party had sufficient reasons for refusal. However, what he did not expect was that the other party directly refused. He agreed, but for a moment, he didn't know what to say. Liu Chengfeng left the hotel room, satisfied. He will send the breeding fee and a high potential koi within the agreed time. When Fatian saw Liu Chengfeng leaving, he sighed and hesitated. Qianzi, you. Li Qian smiled and said, just say what you want to say. A blue-scaled dragon with 5th level overlord potential is definitely worth more than 100 million, so you charge 10 million for its cultivation. Fatian was puzzled. Li Qian looked at Fatian. Fatian, don't worry, I'm not a bad person. If the person here today is not Liu Chengfeng, I will definitely charge the training fee according to the market price. But he is different. After all, he saved both of us last night. Li Qian said unhurriedly. Also, he is from the Public Security Bureau. Helping him can be regarded as a contribution to this society. Force. Fatian suddenly realized, actually, looking back, it makes sense for you to do this. If we want to create a training base, we will inevitably have to deal with official organizations. Don't talk about any lofty intentions, and have a good relationship with the Public Security Bureau. For us, there are only advantages and no disadvantages. Of course, the most important thing is, whether it's 10 million or 100 million, for me, it's a huge profit. Li Qian agreed. Soon, the voice turned to confusion. By the way, when are we going to create a breeding base? It's not that we want to create a breeding base. To be precise, our family is planning to create or buy a breeding base and then give it to you. Li Qian was startled by Fatian's words. Fatian, don't do this, you won't get reward for your efforts. How can it be that you are not rewarded for your merits? Fatian laughed and said, you promised me that you would give me a blue-scaled dragon. In addition, the pet beasts you will cultivate in the future, or other achievements of cultivation, I think if you want to cash out, you can also choose to cooperate with us. Fatian said generously, giving you a breeding base can be regarded as an investment in you. Brother, don't doubt it, you are definitely worth such an investment. When Li Qian heard this, he fell into thinking. He is not doubting whether he is worth such an investment, but considering the gains and losses involved. Cooperating with Fatian's family may be a good choice. The most important thing is that Fatian is very measured. When he opens his mouth, he will give away the cultivation base instead of buying shares in the cultivation base. This shows that they will not touch the core interests of the breeding base. As for the transformation of results, you need to find someone to cooperate. You are not looking for anyone. By cooperating with Fatian's family, at least you know the basics. Another point, very important, is that Li Qian really wants a training base of his own. Not only can it meet your own nurturing needs, but it can also give parents a better work arrangement. Although there were many benefits to the cooperation between the two parties, this kind of thing involved huge implications, so Li Qian did not agree immediately. He was going to go back and discuss it with his parents. The ride we took back was the high-speed train, which was naturally a business seat, and Fatty An was naturally responsible for the cost. Since cooperation is likely to be reached in the future, there is nothing wrong with taking advantage now. The most important thing is that Fatty An and him are close buddies, so there is no need to make it so clear. The worst thing I can do is be more careful when cultivating the blue-scaled dragon for him. The high-speed train is running very fast. This time was different from when we came here. There were no surprises. The Pili train carried the two people back to Lingshui City smoothly. When they came back, it was almost noon. Since both of them had taken leave today, they did not return to school. After having a casual lunch near the high-speed rail station, they went back to their respective homes. Today is Monday, and his parents have already gone to work. Li Qian came home simply to prepare for a good rest. So many things happened last night, and neither of them slept well. After coming back, they naturally wanted to catch up on their sleep. Of course, this was just his plan. As for Fatty An, he contacted his father and Haonian and grandfather and Tianyu as soon as he returned home. Fatty An inherited the shrewd mind inherited from 3 generations of the An family. He knew very well that with Li Qian's current cultivation ability and future potential, as long as they could reach a cooperation, it would definitely be an opportunity for them to take off. How can we not be anxious? Dad, we need to discuss something urgent. Come back quickly. Grandpa, we need to discuss something urgent. Come back quickly. When the call got through, Fatty An didn't directly say what was going on the phone. This kind of thing cannot be explained clearly on the phone. Neither An Haonian nor An Tianyu would abandon the matter at hand and go home just because of Fatty An's senseless words. However, after the latter mentioned that there was an extreme emergency, which affects the future of the family, everyone chose to believe it and quickly returned home. After all, they are their sons and grandsons. Although they sometimes seem unreliable, An Haonian and An Tianyu both know very well that their sons and grandsons are not stupid at heart. On the contrary, they have inherited their advantages and are shrewd. Never be vague on important matters. Not long after, when Li Qian had fallen asleep, An Haonian and An Tianyu returned to An's house. What's so urgent? An Haonian asked immediately when he saw his son when he returned to An's house. An Tianyu also cast a questioning look at his grandson. At this moment, both of them were very curious. What on earth was the matter that was worthy of Fatty An's use of the words, extremely urgent, related to the family's future? Dad, Grandpa, you should still remember Li Qian, right? Fatty An didn't keep anyone in suspense and went straight to the point. It's your classmate, Li Qian, who you have a good relationship with, right? An Haonian thought for a while and remembered Li Qian. Because the other party had a good relationship with his son, the latter often mentioned him at home, so he had some impression of him. Of course, it was just a little impression. Yesterday, he and I went to Yunlin City next door. Do you know what he went there for? Without waiting for An Haonian and An Tianyu to answer, Fatty An spoke up. What's going to happen next may shatter your 3 views, but I dare to guarantee with my household registration book that everything I say is absolutely true. Bang! Without saying a word, An Tianyu directly hit Fatty An's head. What does it mean to use your household registration book as a guarantee? What's the difference between using your household registration book as a guarantee and using your father or your father's father as a guarantee? Get lost. Fatty An touched his head and didn't care. He smiled innocently and continued. Yesterday, Qianzi and I went to Yunlin City together. His purpose of going there was actually to complete a cultivation research. Bang! An Haonian was not polite and added a slap on the head. Stop dithering, get down to business. The thing is, after arriving in Yunlin City, Fatty An didn't dare to talk nonsense anymore, so he quickly cut to the chase and told everything that happened last night. After Fatty An explained what happened exactly, and of course the things about the cultists must have been concealed, both An Haonian and An Tianyu fell into silence. For a moment, I didn't know what to say. Both of them were so shocked that they were almost numb, their heads were buzzing, and they didn't know how to organize their words. A high school student studied the evolution method of koi and successfully evolved a blue-scaled dragon with overlord-level potential. No novel would dare to be written like this. But this kind of thing appeared so openly in the mouths of his son and grandson. The two of them were confident, and with their majesty, this little brat wouldn't dare to make any nonsense. Otherwise, his butt will be blown. In other words, all of this is probably true. Li Qian, my grandson's classmate, really figured out the evolutionary path from koi carp to blue-scaled dragon. Can you two give me a reaction? Seeing that his father and grandfather were both stunned and a little lost, Fatty An felt a little proud in his heart. In fact, after learning Li Qian's true purpose at the pool, his reaction was not much better than that of his father and grandfather. Even worse, if everything you just said is true. And Tianyu looked at his grandson, with a cautious tone, and said, then your classmate Li Qian is indeed a great opportunity for our family. Young boy, I finally found someone worthy this time. While sighing, and Tianyu didn't forget to say something, which made Fatty An's mouth twitch. But this matter is serious. Just hearing what you said makes us a little worried. And Haonian and Tianyu, father and son, worked hard together in the mall and fought as father and son soldiers. They have already developed a complete tacit understanding with each other. After understanding what his father meant, he said meaningfully. Although he didn't finish his words, the meaning he wanted to express was already very obvious. Seeing is believing. Even if it is his own son's report, he still needs to prove it. This matter is indeed too important. If it is confirmed to be true, they will not only invest in the Green Scale Jiao project, but also in Li Qian, forming an unbreakable relationship similar to that of many well-known trainers and the interest groups behind them. In fact, the An family has long wanted to taste the cultivation of this big cake, but they have been struggling to find a capable breeder to cooperate. If Li Qian really has the evil talent that his son and grandson said. For An's family, this is nothing more than providing help in times of need. Last night, after experiencing so many things, neither of us slept well. I guess he should be resting at this moment. Fatty An nodded, not surprised by the caution of his father and grandfather. In this way, Qianzi and I will call later. If there is no problem, I should be able to take you to see it tomorrow. Okay, I'll leave this matter to you, Grandpa, don't worry. And Tianyu cast an approving look at his grandson. This little brother Li Qian, you must have a good relationship with him. When Fatty An heard this, his face fell instantly. Although I understand why my grandfather came up with, little brother Li Qian, I still feel panicked. You already call him brother, so what should I call him? He slept until dusk, and when Li Qian woke up, his parents had already gotten off work. Looking at his father who was watching TV in the living room and his mother who was busy in the kitchen, Li Qian did not immediately speak out about what happened last night. Let's talk about it after dinner. With this thought in mind, he took out his phone and looked at it. A message came into his eyes and caught his attention. Your personal Federation account received 10 million yuan in federal currency at 14:05 on May 12, 3411 in the federal calendar, and the current balance is 10,005,130 yuan. I didn't expect that guy Lu Changfeng to be so impatient. Shaking his head and not taking the matter to heart, Li Qian came to the living room and watched TV with his father Li Chengyang. I went to Yunlin City. How did things go? Li Chengyang asked casually while watching TV. Li Qian nodded. The matter has been completed. Li Chengyang did not ask him about the purpose of going to Yunlin City, and Li Qian had no intention of explaining it yet. Not long after, Mother Han Yuying served the food. Li Qian took a few mouthfuls of rice and said casually, Dad, I remember that your beast control talent is Earth Affinity, which can have a certain bonus to the power of the pet beast's Earth skills. The words kept coming, but his voice did not pause as he continued. I heard you say before that the enclosure bear has reached the elite 7th level and is almost reaching the upper limit of the race. When will it be ready to evolve? And your second pet beast? It's been delayed for so long. Isn't it time to think about it? Li Qian had wanted to talk about these things for a long time, but he had never been able to help his father before, so he didn't mention it to save his father from worrying. Now that the evolution method from koi carp to blue-scaled dragon has been studied, and another 10 million yuan has just been invested. It is time to put these things on the agenda. After hearing Li Qian's words, Li Chengyang didn't pay much attention. I work on the construction site, with the help of enclosure bears, it's enough. If it doesn't evolve, it won't be of much use to me. And if enclosure bears evolve and become mountain giant bears, the cost of raising them will increase significantly. As for the second pet beast, I probably won't consider it in the short term. Li Chengyang spoke lightly, but Li Qian knew clearly that every word in this was very heavy. It's not that I don't want to evolve, it's not that I don't want to contract a second pet beast. In the final analysis, the family's financial conditions do not allow it. In fact, not only his father Li Chengyang, but his mother Han Yuying also faced similar problems. Mother Han Yuying's talent for controlling beasts is feng shui harmony. The talent has a good bonus effect on wind and water pet beasts. It stands to reason that gray bean pigeon has reached the third level of elite and can contract a second pet long ago. The reason why there is still only one pet animal, gray bean pigeon, is not because of lack of money. Li Qian continued to eat rice, and at the same time took out a bank card from his pocket, which contained the 5 million federal coins he had just transferred from his personal federal account. There are 5 million federal coins in it. One of the rewards for going to Yunlin City for the first time. Whether it's the evolution of the enclosure bear and the gray bean pigeon, or the contract between you and my mother's second pet beast, after you have this money, you shouldn't have to worry about it anymore. Li Qian's words were said carelessly, but in the ears of Li Chengyang and Han Yuying, it was like thunder, making their heads buzz. Crack, snap, both of their chopsticks dropped. Their faces were full of shock, surprise, and disbelief. In the end, her mother Han Yuying was the first to react. She walked to Li Qian and touched the latter's forehead. You don't even have a fever. Why are you talking nonsense? When Li Qian saw this, the corner of his mouth twitched slightly. Helplessly pushing away his mother Han Yuying's palm on his forehead, Li Qian took out his mobile phone, opened the transfer record and placed it in front of them. Looking at the long list of numbers in Li Qian's mobile phone transfer record, both Han Yuying and Li Chengyang had expressions of disbelief. Han Yuying immediately thought of something bad. Son, where did you get all this money? We can't do anything illegal or disciplinary. Li Qian wiped the non-existent beads of sweat on his forehead. Dad, Mom, I am the one you pissed every time. You still don't know what kind of person I am. How could I do something so illegal and indisciplined? After giving a wry smile, Li Qian immediately explained, this money is all the training fees I earned. Didn't you just awaken to the beast control space not long ago? You said you wanted to understand the knowledge of cultivation. It only took you 2 months to get the research results. His father, Li Chengyang, couldn't help but doubt him. Really, this kind of thing is too unbelievable. Li Qian laughed and accepted these doubtful compliments unceremoniously. I have told you a long time ago that your son, that is, me, is a nurturing genius, but you have never believed it. My son is a genius. I have never doubted this. But when the genius becomes like this, I have to wonder if he is my son. Li Chengyang blurted out a sentence subconsciously. Boom. Then he was greeted by his mother, Han Yuying, who gave him a warning and punched him directly on the forehead. Li Chengyang, what do you mean? His father, Li Chengyang, suffered such a blow. He exclaimed in pain with an exaggerated, ouch, and quickly explained, well, wife, don't get me wrong. I just said that casually, I didn't mean it in this way. My son is so handsome. He must be following me. How could I doubt it? Seeing that his father Li Chengyang was severely punished for his inappropriate words, Li Qian covered his mouth and snickered. No matter how he explained it, his father and mother always looked at him with suspicion, which made Li Qian quite helpless. He had no choice but to ask his father Li Chengyang to drive to the suburbs after dinner. After confirming that no one was around, he released Kizai. Both his father Li Chengyang and his mother Han Yuying were stunned when they saw the majestic and domineering blue-scaled dragon suspended in midair. On the way back, his father Li Chengyang's mood was still a little calm. Son, you really researched the blue-scaled dragon? Yes, Li Qian nodded. The 10 million I showed you before was the fee someone asked me to help cultivate the blue-scaled dragon. Gudong. Li Chengyang swallowed and asked cautiously, how much does it cost to cultivate a green-scaled dragon like this? Li Qian held out a finger and said, look at the qualifications of the koi provided. If the qualifications of the koi are high, it will only cost about 1 million. If the qualifications are not good, it may be a little more, but not much more. The only troublesome thing is the site requirements of evolution. Li Chengyang reacted immediately, going to Yunlin City. Yes, Li Qian sighed helplessly. Currently, around Arlingshui City, there is only one place in Yunlin City that meets the needs for evolution. Yesterday Fatty and I went to Yunlin City to work on this matter. After explaining the cause and effect of the matter clearly, there was a moment of silence in the car, and a long silence fell. When she was about to arrive home, her mother Han Yuying suddenly said, "Son, your father and I don't know much about nurturing. But there is some truth, we still know it. Your life, your career, and your achievements have just begun. Don't be complacent." Hearing this, Li Qian nodded solemnly. "Mom, don't worry, I want to become a cultivation master, or even a cultivation master. This achievement cannot satisfy me at all. By the way, there is one more thing. My classmate, and Junji, who I usually call Fatian, wants to cooperate with me." Next, Li Qian briefly communicated Fatian's cooperation plan with his parents. Neither his father Li Chengyang nor his mother Han Yuying objected to this. Just say let him make the decision. When returning home, his father Li Chengyang hesitated to speak, but finally spoke, "Son, those 5 million. Li Qian smiled faintly, knowing that they were still unwilling to accept it, so he pretended to be heroic and said, "Are you not worried enough? It doesn't matter. As long as the reputation is established, more beastmasters will come to me to cultivate the blue-scaled dragon. This little money is nothing at all." Seeing that Li Qian was firm in what he said, his father Li Chengyang did not refuse. That night, except for Li Qian himself, neither his father Li Chengyang nor his mother Han Yuying slept much. Also suffering from insomnia include An Haonian and An Tianyu from Angia. When Li Qian got up the next morning, he saw that his father Li Chengyang and his mother Han Yuying both had dark circles under their eyes. Knowing why they had insomnia, Li Qian couldn't help but laugh. After eating some breakfast made by his mother, Li Qian went out. Because they had just returned from Yunlin City yesterday, they were both physically and mentally exhausted, so both he and Fatian took leave and did not go to school. They could not waste any more time today. Although Li Qian can't learn much in the current school, this is his last high school time after all. Li Qian doesn't want to miss it, so as not to leave any regrets. Going downstairs and walking to the entrance of the community, the flashy red sports car came straight to him. "Let's go to school together." Fatian lowered the window. Li Qian didn't bother to be polite with him. He got in directly. In the car, Fatian told his father and grandfather that he wanted to see his Qinglin Jiao. "Sure, after school in the evening, let's go to the artificial waterfall in the western suburbs." Li Qian agreed without hesitation. If you want to conclude a cooperation, you must show your value. Li Qian is very clear about this. Just relying on Fatty Ann's mouth to talk there, both his father and grandfather will definitely be a little worried. This is also human nature. After arriving at school, Li Qian, as usual, took all the classes seriously. As if nothing happened the night before. Today, there is a training class taught by teacher Chu Shiren. This is the course that Li Qian thinks is the most helpful to him at present, so he listened very carefully. As we all know, training is to use various means, methods, and paths to help pets grow stronger. Mastering higher level skills is one, evolution is one, breaking through the limits of races is another, and there are mutations, etc. There are many means to encourage pets to master new skills, evolve, and mutate, including environmental training, potion training, etc. I have roughly introduced these knowledge to you before. You will not be able to get to know more advanced courses until you arrive at the Beast Taming University. Today, I will talk about a very special training method, formation. Li Qian listened to teacher Chu Shiren's explanation in class. Suddenly, when she talked about formation, the task panel that had not been active for a long time popped up a prompt message. Inspiration value +5, current task progress 85%. Now, Li Qian somewhat understands the golden finger he got. The later the mission reaches, the less inspiration value you get. Unless it's that kind of breakthrough. However, despite this, after hearing the word formation, the progress increased by 5%, which still made Li Qian quite happy. This at least proves that formation plays a decisive role in the second evolution method of Koi. And it brought a new research direction to the progress of his mission that had reached a dead end. On the podium, the beautiful teacher Chu Shiren was still talking. Arrayments have many functions, including trapping enemies, killing enemies, gathering energy, and promoting evolution. Therefore, as a cultivator, you don't have to be proficient in arrays, but you must have some knowledge. Chu Shiren emphasized the importance of formation. However, in Li Qian's view, there are still some shortcomings. At least for him, just a brief introduction may not be enough. So at this moment, he has made a decision to incorporate the formation into his self-study arrangements. Listening to teacher Chu Shiren's explanation, Li Qian quickly raised his hand when he saw that she was passing by. Classmate Li Qian, what's your problem? Chu Shiren saw Li Qian's raised right hand and asked. Li Qian did not show off and directly asked the doubts in his heart. Teacher Chu, I would like to ask, what is the inner logic of formations that can promote the evolution of pet beasts? When Chu Shiren heard the question raised by Li Qian, a hint of approval suddenly flashed in her bright eyes. Generally speaking, teachers like students who are proactive and eager to learn. It is estimated that at this moment Li Qian has completely overlapped with the template of a good student. Chu Shiren nodded. Classmate Li Qian asked a very good question. After a pause, she continued to explain. I remember that I said before that the evolution of pet beasts often requires strong energy support. There are many sources of energy, such as pharmaceuticals, materials, environment, etc. And the formation's promotion of evolution is also inseparable from the energy theory learned before. Strictly speaking, the core function of most evolutionary formations is to gather energy, especially in places with abundant natural energy. Setting up a formation is conducive to gathering abundant natural energy in a short period of time. Chu Shiren's explanation was very clear. After listening to it, Li Qian understood the principle instantly. To put it bluntly, arranging the formation is actually to create a high-energy environment that is conducive to the evolution of pet beasts. Li Qian gained a lot from such a training class. Time flies and it's 5 o'clock in the afternoon. After school, Li Qian walked out of the classroom without delay and came to the school gate. As soon as he arrived at the school gate, and within a few minutes of boarding, Fatty Ann's red sports car appeared in front of him. Li Qian got into the car and the car sped towards a certain direction in the western suburbs. Today, I made an appointment with Fatty Ann's father and grandfather to let them, seeing is believing. With Kizai's current body shape, this matter would definitely be inappropriate in Lingshui City. Otherwise, there would be no need to go to the suburbs when I proved it to my parents last night. Summoning Kizai rashly is a bit eye-catching. The red sports car galloped and arrived near the hydropower station in the western suburbs in less than a quarter of an hour. After parking the car, Li Qian arrived at the artificial waterfall without stopping. The light of storage shot out, and the Koi Fu was released. AFU, you have seen how Kizai has evolved. If you want to become as powerful and domineering as Kizai, with superior combat power, you have to continue to train hard. After giving instructions to Ah Fu, Li Qian also summoned Kizai. Although the current pool is a bit like a bathtub for Kizai, it is still a place where he once exercised. Summoning Kizai is like revisiting the old place. Of course, it also has a role of urging Ah Fu to train. Kizai himself can also use the geographical location to train his skills. Finding that the water pool was a bit difficult to open, Li Qian commanded it to rise directly into the air and fall into the river at the top of the artificial waterfall. Because of the dam, the river has formed a reservoir in this section. The water surface is wide and the water depth is at least dozens of meters deeper. When Kizai enters it, he really feels like a dragon entering the sea. Is this the training that koi fish must go through before they can evolve? Fatty Ann saw something as he watched Ah Fu hit the waterfall again and was knocked down by the rushing water again and again. In fact, if it were other well-known trainers, this kind of training scene would definitely be completely closed and confidential. But with the relationship between Li Qian and Fatty Ann, there is no need to avoid it. Of course, the most important thing is that even if he was shown this training method, it would be impossible for Fatty to decipher the secret of koi evolution with his abilities. There are so many details involved in evolution that even if you know all the details, it would take more than half a year to figure it out. Moreover, Li Qian knew very well that his greatest value was not the evolution method from koi carp to green-scaled dragon that he had mastered, but the inner logic and knowledge he had developed about the evolution method of koi carp. I believe that this is what the An family, represented by Fatty An, values the most. The two of them were standing by the pool talking. Not long after, they saw a commercial vehicle slowly approaching. Seeing this, Fatty An introduced it to Li Qian in advance. "That's my dad's car. It should be my dad and my grandpa who are here. After all, they are elders. No matter what the purpose of coming here, it is always impolite to just stand like this without even greeting them." So Li Qian took the initiative to leave the pool and walked towards the reservoir. Just as we arrived at the reservoir, the commercial vehicle happened to stop. A vigorous old man and a middle-aged man with the same heavyweight body stepped out of the commercial vehicle. Uncle An, Grandpa An. Li Qian had met Fatty An's father once, but this was his first meeting with his grandfather. When he saw the two coming out of the car, he took the initiative to say hello. At the same time, he glanced briefly and saw that there was no one else in the commercial vehicle. But looking back, this is normal. Both An Haonian, Fatty An's father, and An Tianyu, his grandfather, are veterans who have been in shopping malls for many years and know exactly which people to bring to any occasion. For example, on this occasion today, except for the four of them, no one else is suitable to be present. "Classmate Li Qian, I heard Junji talk about the situation of my little brother yesterday. Please allow me to apologize first," An Tianyu said in a gentle and polite voice. "It's not that we don't believe what he said, it's actually that this matter is too important. For the sake of long-term cooperation in the future, both I and his father hope to see it with our own eyes. I hope you can forgive me, little brother." Fatty An expected that his grandfather would be more polite to Li Qian. However, the enthusiastic address of little brother still made him couldn't help but twitch the corner of his mouth. "I feel like I am 2 generations shorter than Li Qian for no reason." An Tianyu and An Haonian were polite to him, and Li Qian naturally knew why. He did not dare to be arrogant. He responded equally enthusiastically, "Hello Uncle An, hello Grandpa An." After returning the greeting, Li Qian didn't waste any more time and got straight to the point. "I can understand that this matter is extremely important for both of us. It's better to be more cautious. Uncle An, Grandpa An, please come with me." Li Qian reached out to guide him, and Li Qian went straight to the reservoir. As for Ah Fu, just let him stay in the waterfall and train on his own. Anyway, he is already very familiar with the training content. And Li Qian believed that after watching the whole process of Kizai's evolution, Ah Fu would definitely be touched. Maybe, at this moment, he is in excitement and admiration. I came to the reservoir and took a look. The housing area of the hydropower station was still quite far away from here. In addition, it was almost dusk now and the light was not very good, so I should not be discovered. Of course, strictly speaking, even if you are discovered, it is nothing, but you may encounter some harassment in the future and may lose a training location. For Li Qian, essentially, there is no problem. No longer worrying about anything, Li Qian directly used the soul contract to send a message to Kizai. The next moment the message was transmitted, there was a crash sound, and the water surface not far from the shore suddenly broke. A dragon head with a conical horn suddenly burst out of the water. "Kizai, here you go." Seeing Kizai showing his head and looking at him in confusion, Li Qian threw out an energy cube he had prepared long ago. This energy cube is considered a universal food for pet beasts. Basically all pet beasts that need to eat will eat it, and it has a strong sense of satiety. 1 cube can last for 3 days. Kizai caught the energy cube, swallowed it in one gulp, then made a splash and dived into the reservoir again. Although the energy cubes are very hungry, their taste is average, or to be more precise, they have basically no taste. They are definitely not as good as the fish and shrimp in the reservoir. Thinking that his master called him out just to feed him the energy cube, Kizai naturally returned to the reservoir again to hunt for food. "Uncle An, Grandpa An, how are you?" Li Qian said with a smile. They wanted to come out to see the blue-scaled dragon, but they were worried that Fatian would be deceived, and the so-called research results were just a lie. Now that I have seen Kizai, I believe that my heart should be relieved. As the saying goes, heroes have emerged from youth since ancient times. And Haonian started to praise with flattering tone. Student Li Qian was able to solve such a difficult problem at a young age and cultivate a blue-scaled dragon with overlord-level potential. His potential in the future will be unparalleled. Limited edition. It can be said that cultivating a master, or even a grandmaster, is just around the corner. Although he did think so, Li Qian still felt a little embarrassed to be praised so much by an Haonian. Ahem, Uncle and Grandpa and let's discuss cooperation. Bringing the topic back on track, Li Qian's expression became serious. In this regard, I wonder what Li Qian's thoughts are. And Tianyu looked at Li Qian and said in a gentle tone. At this moment, the four of them were standing by the Lingshui River, looking at the setting sun and the sparkling water, just like a family going out for an outing. Li Qian sensed it for a while and found that Kizai had dived to the center of the reservoir. He shook his head slightly and responded, I'm just a student. I don't know anything about business matters. I don't know what Grandpa An has to teach you. Don't take advice seriously. And Tianyu smiled and said something polite, then went straight to the point and said, in this way, I will tell you Anne's thoughts first. If there is anything you think is inappropriate, you can raise it directly. After saying that, he turned his head slightly and looked at an Haonian beside him. The latter also smiled and said slowly, first of all, it's the cultivation base that Junji mentioned to you before. We will honor the donation of the breeding base as soon as possible. And Haonian spoke like a kind uncle next door, I wonder what classmate Li Qian's requirements are for the future training base. Li Qian thought for a while and put forward his request. First, I hope it can be completed as soon as possible. Second, there needs to be a waterfall in the cultivation base. After all, he is the future owner of the cultivation base. He has some ideas about the construction or transformation of the cultivation base. At this stage, the most important thing is to meet the training needs of Koi. Fall. When an Haonian heard Li Qian mention the waterfall, he pondered for a moment, and then asked, does the gap have to reach the standard of the one in Yunlin City? That's not necessary, as long as it reaches more than 10 meters. Li Qian shook his head and replied. A waterfall with a drop of more than 100 meters would be ideal, but Li Qian also knew that such a waterfall was rare. As long as it exists, as long as it is not too remote, in any corner, it has basically been developed into a scenic spot. How difficult is it to buy or rent? It's simply not something you can do with money. As for building a waterfall with a drop of more than 100 meters, as I joked before, not to mention how much money is needed, I don't know if I can find a place that meets the conditions in the entire Lingshui city. So he didn't make things difficult for anyone in this regard. Hearing this, and Haonian agreed without hesitation, it's simple. At present, most breeding bases have ponds or small lakes. As long as you build a rockery in the water source and create a water cycle, you can form a gap. For waterfalls over 10 meters, it's not a big problem. Li Qian nodded and continued to add, however, a waterfall with such a height can only be used for daily training of Koi. If it is evolved, it is not enough. So we also need a place that can support the evolution of Koi. After thinking about it, Li Qian gave his own suggestion, it would be best if this kind of venue can be rented or purchased. If not, it can be closed for a night every once in a while and given to us alone. That is also okay. If so, it's not difficult to achieve. And Haonian smiled and said confidently. After a moment of silence, he suddenly spoke and mentioned something, if classmate Li Qian is in a hurry, I actually have a good choice here. Oh, where? Li Qian was slightly surprised. It seems that Anshi did not come to him rashly. Obviously, they have done a lot of preparation work in advance. And Haonian did not hesitate and said a name directly, Southern Suburbs, Sunshine Training Base. When Li Qian heard this, the surprised expression on his face flashed away. Where does my mother work? That's right, it's the place where Ling Qi works. And Haonian took over the conversation and continued. Currently, the Zhaoyang breeding base is up for sale. Li Qian frowned. The Sun training base is on the market for sale. Isn't there an intermediate breeder in the training base? It should be able to maintain it, right? And Haonian told the inside information he had found out. You should be talking about a female breeder named Gao. She is an intermediate breeder. It is said that her level is good. Unfortunately, she is not a breeder from the Jiaoyang breeding base division. She is just temporarily staying in the breeding base to do research. It is said that the study is coming to an end and she will be leaving soon. Now that he had an idea about the Jiaoyang training base, Li Qian was not surprised at all that and was able to investigate the information based on his local connections. And if Gao Yaxin is really just staying here temporarily to study. When the research is over, it's time to leave. So it is understandable that the Jiaoyang cultivation base is unsustainable and has problems in its operations. Considering that I know the Jiaoyang breeding base fairly well. In line with the principle of making things mature rather than making them raw, it seems to be a good idea to choose the Jiaoyang cultivation base. Thinking about this, he showed interest and continued to ask, Uncle N, please tell me in detail about the situation of this sun cultivation base. And Haonian nodded upon hearing this, and then began to introduce. The Jiaoyang breeding base covers an area of 505 mu, and there is a breeding pool of about 100 mu in the center of the breeding base. Combining with the needs mentioned by Li Qian before, and Haonian continued to speak and put forward a renovation suggestion, building a rockery in this breeding pool to form an artificial waterfall should be no problem. Li Qian listened silently and did not say anything. And Haonian understood and did not waste time. He continued, in the breeding base, various facilities are relatively complete, and the basic conditions fully meet our current breeding needs. Giving Li Qian some time to digest, and Haonian paused, and after a moment, he changed the subject. Of course, this Jiaoyang breeding base is not without problems. This instantly aroused Li Qian's interest. He knew very well that even though he liked the Jiaoyang breeding base more, the choice of the breeding base could not be sloppy, and everything had to be evaluated according to the results of objective investigation. He could not be emotional just because his mother worked there. Seeing that Li Qian was listening attentively, and Haonian kept talking, at present, there are three most prominent problems. First, if the trainer surnamed Gao leaves, the entire training base will not have any trainers who can show off. Moreover, the three existing trainees will probably leave as well. Li Qian curled his lips indifferently when he heard this. After thinking for a while, he spoke out his thoughts. It's not a big problem. It would be best if the three trainees could stay. If they want to leave, they don't have to stay. It is obvious that even if the Jiaoyang training base is successfully acquired, the training of the green-scaled dragon is still the biggest income of the base at this stage. And the training of the green-scaled dragon, even if the three trainees stay, will not be of much use. Seeing Li Qian's attitude, and Haonian did not hesitate and asked the second question. Secondly, some of the equipment in the training base is relatively old. After taking over, we may need to update or iterate these equipment. Li Qian nodded slightly when he heard this. In fact, the evolution of koi does not require any training equipment. Dragon bone powder can be purchased directly in offline stores or pet malls. There is no need to worry about making it yourself. In fact, it does not save much money. The development of the breeder industry has been very sound and the division of labor is very fine. As long as you have money and contribution points, most of the breeding resources can be bought directly. Whether the research results can be achieved, the breeding equipment has an impact, but the impact is not great. What is more important is the research inspiration and concept. Of course, if the funds are sufficient, it is still necessary to update a batch of commonly used equipment. Seeing that Li Qian did not say anything, and Haonian went on to say, finally, it is the problem of pets in the base. At this point, he couldn't help but sigh. At present, there are almost no high-value pets in the entire breeding base. In the base, the most pets are koi and red-feathered chickens, and there are also a small number of wood-type and ordinary-type pets. Li Qian had expected this and was not surprised. If the breeding base business is very good and prosperous, it is impossible for his mother Han Yuying not to have a salary increase for more than 10 years. Isn't it normal for a breeding base with poor business to have no high-value pets? Moreover, for a breeding base, its value does not lie in the pets, but in the breeders. In fact, pets like koi and red-feathered chickens, which are large in number but low in potential, are often more valuable for research. Just like koi, after Li Qian studied its evolutionary path to the green-scaled dragon, as long as it is popularized, it can be said that the entire tribe will achieve a real leap from fish to dragon gate. Its value can be increased to the point where everyone is chasing it, and it will definitely be no problem to increase it by more than 10 times. Next, it took a few more minutes for Anhaunian to briefly introduce other information about the Jiaoyang breeding base. Perhaps because of the tight time, the information investigated was not much, but it was enough for Li Qian to make reference and comparison. After watching the green-scaled dragon and discussing basic cooperation matters, Li Qian did not train for long that night and left at around 7 o'clock. He and the 3 generations of the An family had a meal in Lingshui City. This meal was quite rich. Knowing the financial resources of the An family, Li Qian did not save money for them. Li Qian ate whatever they ordered, and was extravagant for once. After telling them to focus on the Jiaoyang breeding base, but don't let go of other breeding bases, Li Qian said goodbye to the 3 An family members. The next day, in the morning, Li Qian rarely skipped classes. He went to the pet rescue station in Lingshui City. Last night, after the dinner, the 3 An family members sent Li Qian home. On the way, he passed the rescue station and thought of the garfish that was captured by the Black God cult as an experimental subject. Because of the tight funds, he needed to do his best to ensure the evolution of Kizi. Therefore, after it was fully recovered and discharged from the hospital, Li Qian did not adopt it immediately. In fact, when he rescued it, Li Qian had the intention of adopting it, but at that time he was short of money and did not take action. Now, with a huge sum of 5 million in his hand, he is not short of money, and he just remembered this matter, so Li Qian did not delay any longer. I came to the rescue station and inquired about it. I found that the sparrowfish had not been taken away yet and was being kept in a pond in the backyard of the rescue station. Li Qian didn't stop, and after hearing the news, he walked straight over. After a while, he saw the birdtail fish again. As soon as he got closer, the little guy recognized him. The little guy jumped out of the water, and his beautiful peacock-like fish tail stretched out in midair. It was obvious that it was in a very happy mood when it saw Li Qian arriving. "Little guy, I'm here this time to adopt you. If you are willing to go back with me, just jump out of the water and spin around." After Li Qian finished speaking, the next moment, the little guy jumped out of the water without hesitation and spun around in midair to show its attitude. The potential of this birdtail is high. The director of the rescue station is a mother-in-law who is about 50 years old. Li Qian calls her Grandma Meow. Seeing this scene, the old man couldn't help but smile on his wrinkled face. Before, there were many beast masters. The teacher wanted to adopt it, but it rejected him. Now it seems that it should be waiting for you. Li Qian chuckled, feeling the birdtail's joy, and his heart was filled with warmth. The reason why it is willing to follow me should be related to the fact that I saved it. I hope you treat it well, and it will become your right-hand assistant. Granny Meow looked at Li Qian and said in a gentle voice. Li Qian nodded, with a firm tone, and responded, "Grandma Meow, don't worry, I will cultivate it well." When he said this, he subconsciously glanced at the finches in the pond. After paying the adoption fee and putting the garter fish into the beast controlling ball prepared in advance, Li Qian did not stay any longer. After saying goodbye to Granny Meow, he left the rescue station. Since he only took a morning off, Li Qian did not go home after adopting the garter fish, but went directly to school. In the afternoon, there was a meditation class taught by teacher Zhu Bingqing, and he did not want to miss it. After experiencing the evolutionary feedback of Kizi, Li Qian's mental power has been greatly improved. He has already touched the threshold of the elite level. If he is more diligent and seizes the time to meditate, he may be able to break through to the elite level before graduation. In the afternoon, in the meditation class, Li Qian meditated meticulously. Feeling the slow improvement of mental power, he was not in a hurry. There is no use in being anxious about this kind of thing. Improving mental power is a slow process. After class, just when Li Qian was about to leave as usual, teacher Zhu Bingqing stopped him and asked about some situations. It was not beyond Li Qian's expectations. Teacher Zhu Bingqing asked about the last visit to the pet pharmacy. Through Li Qian's visit to the pharmacy and the communication with teacher Chu Shiren, She learned that the former was learning breeding and hoped to develop into a professional breeder in the future, so she asked a few more questions with concern. However, the questions were basically, have you encountered any problems, what are you studying recently, have you gained anything? He didn't want to deceive teacher Zhu Bingqing, but he was worried that telling the truth directly would be too shocking. Li Qian could only answer with words like, it's okay, no problem, a little gain. Finally, he dealt with teacher Zhu Bingqing. As soon as he arrived at the school gate, Li Qian met the envious and jealous eyes of Fadian. Li Qian didn't bother to be polite with him, opened the car door, and got in directly. Don't be like this, it was teacher Zhu Bingqing who took the initiative to find me. Li Qian rolled his eyes at Fadian unhappily. She just cares about my studies. By the way, Fadian, we are about to graduate. If you don't confess, you won't have much time left. Li Qian said, instigating, how about going crazy before graduation? This, that. Li Qian's words made Fadian blush. He hesitated, not knowing how to respond. Li Qian struck while the iron was hot and continued, you don't want to leave irreparable regrets after graduation. But, what if teacher Zhu Bingqing rejects me? Fadian frowned and expressed his concerns. Li Qian curled his lips and attacked mercilessly. Brother, be bold, this matter will not last. Teacher Zhu Bingqing rejects you, that's 100% sure. Hearing this, Fadian's face was as black as the bottom of a pot. He couldn't help but complain in his heart, can you not be so direct, even if it's the truth? Single quote. Then why should I confess? Confessing to loneliness, humiliating myself. Fadian's face was full of resentment, and it looked as if he was saying, brother, are you deliberately fooling me? Single quote. Li Qian curled his lips and said earnestly, your confession is not for a response. To put it bluntly, teacher Zhu Bingqing will never agree. This confession, after all, is for yourself. Give your high school crush a result, give your own heart an explanation. Fadian's face was full of doubt when he heard this. It sounds like it makes sense. But I always feel that something is wrong. You are not waiting to see my fun. How could it be? Li Qian said it with certainty, but he was muttering in his heart. This fat man is getting smarter and harder to fool. With Fadian as a full-time driver, the two arrived at the artificial waterfall in less than a quarter of an hour. After arriving, Li Qian released the garter and Kizi without stopping. The garter and Kizi were directly put into the Lingshui River reservoir. As for Ah Fu, he was kept in the pool under the waterfall. Li Qian let it continue to practice its waterfall climbing skills. Its waterfall climbing skill level has reached the mastery level. If it continues to train at this intensity, Li Qian estimates that the skill level will reach the perfect level in a month at most. If everything goes well, Ah Fu should be able to evolve into a green-scaled dragon before graduation. At that time, it would be a good choice to directly release it in his own breeding base or let his mother Han Yuying contract it. As for the other evolutionary form of koi, Li Qian's attitude is quite Buddhist. Anyway, Ah Fu will definitely not catch up. The delay in the progress of the research task is only one of the reasons. Ah Fu's training during this period is to evolve into a green-scaled dragon, which is another important reason. Li Qian doesn't care much about this. According to his future development, it will definitely not be difficult to find another koi with high potential. After figuring out the connection, he found a big rock by the pond and sat down slowly. He took out a book from his school bag and started reading. As for Fadian, Li Qian let him leave after reaching the destination. Before leaving, Li Qian specially warned, Fadian, you should pay more attention to the high potential koi. Remember, the higher the potential, the higher the probability of evolution. Li Qian was not fooling him by this. The higher the potential, the higher the probability of the koi's jumping skill breaking the limit. The higher the probability of learning and training the waterfall climbing skills to perfection. This means that the probability of it evolving into a blue-scaled dragon is higher. Likewise, the time required for evolution will be shorter. When Fadian heard this, he agreed with confidence. With the financial resources they had to settle down, it would be a piece of cake to collect high-potential koi. After all, koi is one of the most abundant pet animals in the ancestral star. Not to mention flooding, it's not far behind. Li Qian watched quietly. The books were specially borrowed by Chu Shiren, the teacher of the education class, during the break this afternoon. It is a book that introduces formations, and it is of great help to Li Qian. I have to say that teacher Chu Shiren is really dedicated to the cultivation of students. Li Qian also feels lucky to have a cultivation teacher like her. What's even more fortunate is that not only teacher Chu Shiren, but also teacher Zhu Bingqing in the meditation class, teacher Hu Minghua in the combat class, teacher Lu Xinmin in the pet knowledge class, and teacher Guo Sheng in the cultural class are all teachers of this type. Read a book, wait until your eyes are sore, and then take a rest. Oo also took out his mobile phone, and talked about the Shui Shui Waste Pet Research Institute group, and Dudu and the others. In this way, time flew by, and in a blink of an eye, it was early 10 o'clock in the evening. Ever since his parents found out that Li Qian had contracted Kizai, the green-scaled dragon, they felt a lot more relieved about his safety. This night, it was rare that they didn't call to inquire. After taking off Fu back, Li Qian came to the dam and informed Kizai with the help of the soul contract. After a while, Kizai broke out of the water, and the finch fish returned with it. After taking Kizai back to the beast-controlling space, Li Qian took out the beast-controlling ball and prepared to take back the sparrowfish as well. At this moment, the sparrowfish was spinning strangely in the water. Gululu. The bird tail was not only spinning, but also blowing bubbles, as if it had something to tell Li Qian. However, due to the inability to speak human words, I couldn't express myself clearly at all. Li Qian was quite helpless when he saw this. His talent for controlling beasts was the eye of true seeing. If it were telepathy, this kind of chicken and duck situation would not occur at this time. Unfortunately, as far as he knew, most Beastmaster's beast control talents were fixed and unique. It seems that I have heard that some heavenly and earthly treasures can increase the Beastmaster's talent or change the Beastmaster's talent. But even if that kind of natural treasure really exists, it is not something that Li Qian can covet now. Li Qian frowned helplessly as he watched the sparrowfish spinning in circles in the water. He tentatively interpreted it, looked at the sparrow not far from the shore, and asked, "Do you have anything to give me?" As soon as he said these words, the bird-tail fish immediately swayed, and then dived into the depths of the water again. Li Qian was puzzled when he saw this. About 2 minutes later, it jumped out of the water again, and something seemed to be wrapped around its tail. Wow! As a subtle sound of water breaking sounded, Li Qian clearly saw something wrapped in the sparrow's tail and rolled up. He didn't think much about it, and Li Qian also believed that the bird tail would not hurt him, so he subconsciously reached out and caught the thing. When he had complete control in his hand and stared intently, he realized that it was actually a bead, about the size of a baby's fist, and its entire body was as black as ink. Looking at this weird bead, Li Qian was confused. What's the situation? Why did the finch give this mysterious bead to him? What kind of treasure is this? Where did it come from? Black God Cult. After holding the mysterious black bead and examining it for a while, Li Qian found nothing, so he stopped thinking about it. After hiding it, he took back the bird tail and returned home. Time flies, and soon, it's the weekend again. This week, not much happened. Everything is progressing in an orderly manner. The acquisition of the cultivation base has basically been discussed. During this period, Lu Chengfeng had a phone call with him. He was still looking for high-potential koi. Sharpening a knife is as good as chopping wood. He doesn't seem too anxious about this. Fatian is also searching for high-potential koi, and has already made some gains. However, he also has strict requirements for his first pet beast, so he is still striving for excellence in the selection. Today is Saturday. According to the old practice, Mother Han Yuying will most likely have to work overtime. Yes, even with the 5 million they gave, Mother Han Yuying and Father Li Chengyang did not quit their current jobs. According to them, no matter how much money you have, you can't just sit back and have nothing. In addition, work is also a reflection of their personal value. If they resign and retire at this age, they really don't know what to do. In short, they can't do it. His parents' work continued, and it seemed that nothing had changed. However, Li Qian knew that changes had actually appeared quietly. For example, my father Li Chungyang's enclosure bear should have started preparing for evolution long ago because it was close to the limit of its racial potential. However, it was put on hold because the family's financial situation did not allow it. Now, it has been picked up again. Li Qian saw that his father Li Chungyang had begun training the enclosure bear's racial skills in preparation for evolution. And it seems that the search for the second contracted pet has already begun. As for Mother Han Yuying, there will be relatively few changes. The racial potential of the gray bean pigeon has not yet been exploited to its upper limit. Li Qian had already planned the second pet beast for her. It was either a contracted birdtail or a contracted AFU. Whether it's the green-scaled dragon that evolved from Afu or the mermaid that evolved from the sparrowfish, they are both high-quality pets with the potential to reach the overlord level, and they are both good choices. Mom, why didn't you go to work today? Li Qian asked while eating breakfast in the morning. When her mother Han Yuying heard this, a hint of disappointment appeared on her face. The normal university is leaving, and the breeding base is said to have been sold to other owners. She opened her mouth and told about the changes in the training base in the past week. It is said that the new boss has begun to hand over to the original boss. In the past few days, except for the accountants in the base, all of us old employees have been put on leave. The efficiency of the cultivation base is not good. Han Yuying has worked in the base for more than 10 years, so how could she not be clear about this? Moreover, after Gao Yaxin decided to leave, it would be even more bleak, which she expected. However, she was still a little surprised to end up being acquired. After hearing this, Li Qian's mouth curved slightly. He knew this very well. And Haonian had just reported the progress to him last night. At this time, it was not just a handover. Li Qian estimated that the transformation should have already begun. The original plan discussed with Anshi was to carry out renovations as soon as possible after taking over. You can take your time in other places. Rockeries and artificial waterfalls must be rushed out as soon as possible. This is not only related to Afu's training progress, but also to the training progress of Fatty Ann's first pet beast. After all, it's not a problem to train at an artificial waterfall all the time. How could they not be interested? While eating breakfast, Han Yuying was worried about her job. I wonder if the new boss will clean up old employees like us after he takes office. Li Qian grimaced, suppressed his smile, and said comfortingly, "Don't worry, Mom, you have worked at the Zhaoyang training base for so many years. You are serious and dedicated, and your work attitude is beyond words. The new boss will definitely continue to reuse you." Quote, "Reuse, how can we not reuse? After all, the training base will belong to our family from now on." After listening to Li Qian's comfort, Mother was still a little worried. It's impossible to say for sure. After all, there is an emperor and a minister. Hearing this, Li Qian smiled awkwardly. "Well, it's just a small breeding base, not as exaggerated as you said." After breakfast, as usual, Li Qian rode his bicycle to the Shijiao hydropower station. It was the same pool, the artificial waterfall, and the big stone. Li Qian sat on it with his legs crossed and meditated. Strive for an early breakthrough. Fu trains in the waterfall. Birdtail and Kizai went to the reservoir. He had just sat down cross-legged, and within 5 minutes, his cell phone rang. Li Qian picked up the phone and said, "Hey, Captain Liu, I have already arrived in Lingshui City. In this case, you can go directly to the hydropower station in the western suburbs." About half an hour later, a taxi stopped on the road beside the reservoir, and Liu Chengfeng stepped out. Liu Chengfeng glanced at the reservoir. "Dam, artificial waterfall and pool, this is where you train daily." Li Qian nodded. "The training of koi requires an environment. There is no other way. Currently, I have only found such a place in Lingshui City. But I have already planned a training base. Next, I will transfer to the training base for training." After a brief explanation, Li Qian kept talking and started to get to the point. "Did you bring the koi?" Liu Chengfeng wasted no time and directly released the koi he collected from the beast control ball. Li Qian activated his true seeing eye and looked over. Name, koi. Attribute, water. Level, ordinary level 4. Potential, ordinary level 5. Skills, fish leaping, mastery, waterfall climbing, beginner. After seeing the information about koi, he nodded slightly. The potential is good. Hey, he has actually learned the skill of climbing waterfalls. Lu Chengfeng chuckled. I also saw the evolution that day. I expected that mastering the skill of climbing waterfalls must be one of the conditions for evolution, so I have been paying attention this week and saw almost hundreds of koi. 1. He learned the skill of climbing waterfalls on his own. Li Qian wanted to say that waterfall climbing skills can be trained in specific environments. But thinking about it, I can learn waterfall climbing skills on my own without special training. At least it proves that the potential of this koi is indeed higher than that of most of its kind. At least higher than Ah Fu. Just as the two were talking, suddenly, there was a violent explosion in the upstream reservoir, followed by a huge splash of water rising into the sky. When Li Qian saw this, he was suddenly shocked. The finches and finches are both in the reservoir. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.